What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. Straw Hat Marine Regiment. 1 Shish. Chapter 1 Traveling through the Pirates, King Luffy starved to death. Advertisement. A few seagulls are flying around a small wooden boat in the boundless sea. On the wooden boat, a young man in a vest, shorts, and dragboard was staring at the straw hat in his hand in a daze. Am I transmigrating? Luffy looked at the straw hat in his hand in bewilderment. Don't wear such a hat, you can't make me a Luffy just because my name is Luffy, hey. That's right, the boy's name is Luffy, and he was originally just an ordinary migrant worker from Blue Star. When he woke up, he appeared on this boat inexplicably. Memories come and go. Let Luffy know that he has traveled to the world of One Piece. In place of the already starved protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy became the destiny child of this world. That's right, just like the many parallel worlds in the American drama Rocky, Luffy, the pirate king in this world, died before he was able to make it out, which made the hero burst into tears. I just went to sea because I don't have a navigator, I don't know how to plan food, and I'm afraid that I can't swim in the sea. He died of starvation on this small boat that can only accommodate one person and one bucket. Luffy felt his skinny body wanted to cry but said that this is the reality. When watching One Piece in the previous life, those protagonists and pirates rowed a small boat directly into the vast sea, but they didn't die. Isn't this G nonsense? Obviously, the reality is that most of the idiots who have no boats and no one are dead, only a very few children of destiny, blessed by God, survived to the next episode. Guys like Ace, Luffy from the main universe. Obviously, Luffy in this world was not so lucky, and starved to death on the way to encounter the Alvita pirates. At this time, Luffy said that it is an animation, so why not be so realistic? Could it be that I want to be one of the few time-traveling people, a hard worker who was cool at the beginning? Luffy smiled bitterly, feeling the bursts of hunger coming from his body. He didn't even know how he was still alive and didn't follow Luffy. He was so hungry that he didn't even have the strength to move, otherwise he would never let those seagulls go. Advertisement. It's either a cheat or an old man who travels through time. How come I don't talk about cheating, just give myself a dead body? Don't I still call Shao I classmate? Hey, system. Hey, here it is. Close black lens bracket. Luffy. System. Open black lens bracket. What can I help you? Close black lens bracket. Luffy. It's really F*** G here. I'm F*** G dying. Can't you make a sound yourself? Luffy roared loudly with all his strength, and scared the seagulls who had landed on the side of the boat and waited for the feast to fly out. This system does not have any intelligence, and the system operation needs to be operated by the host himself. Don't be so nonsense. Quick, eat. Get me something to eat. Is there a gift pack for beginners? Don't people's system give benefits to newcomers? Ding dong, the novice gift pack has been released, and the side effect of Devil Fruit's ability, fear of seawater, has been eliminated. Luffy, this is the cheating. Is this what I want now? I can now have a call even if I am not afraid of seawater. All I want now is food. Food, is there anything to eat? Luffy asked the system again in despair. Congratulations, no. Close black lens bracket. My tender father. Advertisement. Luffy roared loudly in his heart, then you have a bird. This system is the Variety Martin system. Every 7 days, the host will randomly obtain all the abilities of an anime character. Within 7 days, host will improve the reduction degree by acting as the anime character. When the restoration degree reaches 100%, the host can immediately obtain an ability, skill or item of the anime character. Characters can be repeated and randomized, and the restoration degree will not be reset. Do you want to start this instant? Close black lens bracket. Luffy wanted to cry but had no tears in his heart. In the current situation, the ability to acquire was useless, wouldn't he starve to death every minute? Luffy sighed helplessly. Let's go right now, at least go through once, can't you just return to the west without even using the system? Ding dong, random. Congratulations on getting this random template. Poseidon. Close black lens bracket. Poseidon. Luffy was taken aback, Princess Shirahoshi's template. Before thinking about it, a phantom wearing a golden armor and holding a trident suddenly appeared in front of Luffy and merged with Luffy. This is Poseidon in DC. Luffy suddenly felt a powerful force flooding his whole body. A gleaming golden trident suddenly appeared in his hand. The originally shriveled body expanded rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. The boundless sea that originally made people feel hopeless is now feeling very friendly to Luffy. Ding dong, Poseidon template is equipped. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes. Open black lens bracket. Current reduction rate is 0%. Close black lens bracket. Please check the property panel for detailed properties. Feeling the surging power of his body, Luffy lost his voice in astonishment, possessed and revived with full blood. Advertisement Chapter 2 I am a Poseidon, contracting an ocean. Advertisement. I am a Poseidon, and I would like to contract this ocean for you. Luffy holds a trident and soars lonely in the ocean on big waves. When I watched anime in my previous life, I didn't realize how big East Blue was. Luffy got on Grand Line within a few episodes. How come I've been walking like this for almost a week, and I haven't even seen a boat? At this moment, he absolutely agrees with the importance of Nami as a navigator. No wonder Nami, the Straw Hat Pirates in the previous life, wanted to be number one and no one dared to say number two. If there is no navigator here, in this broken place where most of the world is sea, you can just wave. Luffy looked at the blue sea with emotion. In my whole life, I don't need oars to row a boat, I don't need sails to set sail, I rely on waves all my life. Then he looked at his property panel. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Current loading template. DC Poseidon. Equipment. Trident of the Sea God manipulate the water in the ocean range to cause tides, tsunamis, waterspouts, manipulate the weather wind, rain, thunderstorm, launch magic lightning, create ice, poison, and grant flight ability. Innate abilities. Super endurance, super strength, super senses, super reaction, super speed, super jump, amphibious breathing, magic potential, vitality connection, telepathy. Character reset countdown. 1 hour 02 minutes 47 seconds. Character restoration degree. 10%. After loading the Poseidon template, Luffy was finally released from the crisis of being starved to death. As a Poseidon, he can control the fish in the sea to throw themselves into the net without even going into the sea himself. Advertisement. However, what makes Luffy helpless is that although he has all the abilities of Poseidon, his strength does become stronger with the improvement of reduction. Not directly possessing the peak strength of Poseidon in the original comics. Think about it too, Poseidon's peak speed in the water can reach Mach 9, and now he is at most faster than the Murloc in the water. Even so, Luffy feels that his current strength is definitely more than 10 times stronger than Luffy at this time in the original book. With the blessing of the Poseidon template, Luffy at this time at least has the strength when the capital of Seven Waters and CP9 played against each other. But even with this kind of strength, its effect in this boundless sea is still limited. At least at this point Luffy has to feel melancholy that the Poseidon template is about to be reset. He never thought that it would be so difficult to improve the restoration of this character. During this week, he constantly used Poseidon's various skills, but barely increased the degree of restoration to 10%. Luffy suspects that his own physical fitness limits the improvement progress of the template. After all, the DC universe is a multiverse, and the strength of the top powerhouses can even reach the Starburst level. Although Poseidon is not very powerful, he is still the king of the Atlantis family, the three giants of ancient humans. At its peak, Poseidon's physical strength can withstand the ice magic of King Atlantis of the first generation, stratum lava, and even survive after being shot into Earth's orbit and falling back to Earth. Therefore, although Luffy's physical strength far exceeds that of ordinary blue star humans, it is still far behind Poseidon. But Luffy can clearly feel that he has developed a great degree of physical development by playing Poseidon. Due to the bonus of Poseidon's passive ability, Luffy doesn't know how much his current specific strength has been enhanced. But Luffy felt that even if he didn't have the bonus of Poseidon's ability at this time, his strength at this time could not reach the strength he had when he was against Sand Crocodile K-Lock Doll. Advertisement. And Luffy knew that what he ate was not pure rubber fruit, but something similar to the Sun God fruit. It's a pity that Luffy was not updated when he crossed, and naturally he doesn't know how to develop the fruit awakening, so he can't go to the Island of Ghosts to find Kaido to fight. In that case Luffy is 99% sure that he will play dead like his starving predecessor. Fortunately, Luffy's ability before awakening is very clear, and it is relatively simple to develop. The most important thing is that Poseidon has its own super sense and super reaction. Super senses. Senses more than double that of ordinary people, can see and hear clearly in the deepest trench, and can hear sirens several miles away on land. Super reaction. The reaction is several times that of ordinary people. Observation Haki is originally a skill that can be awakened by strengthening the senses and self-responsibility. These two skills allowed Luffy to awaken Observation Haki early, which is also a surprise. But all of this can't get rid of Luffy's dilemma at this time. That is, my Poseidon experience coupon will disappear soon. But I still haven't found any islands and abilities. Once the Poseidon template is gone, Luffy suspects that he will repeat the steps of his predecessor who starved to death at sea. He doesn't think the next template is just an anime character is suitable for surviving at sea as Poseidon. And just when Luffy looked melancholy, several sharks emerged from the bottom of the water. Waves of brain waves passed from the shark's head into Luffy's mind. Luffy opened his eyes wide and shouted excitedly. What? There's a boat. Advertisement Chapter 3 Nami's Speedrunning Strategy. Advertisement. Poseidon has telepathy. Relying on life force connection, Luffy can easily talk to sea creatures. These sharks were the spies he sent out to look for land around them. Luffy looked at the template reset time that was less than an hour left, and without hesitation pushed the waves towards the direction that Depressed said. And now not far from the sea. The Alvita pirates are frantically looting merchant ships, and on the Alvita, a girl in a pirate costume is carrying boxes out excitedly. Harvest. I didn't expect this pirate group who only offered a reward of 5 million Baileys to have so much treasure. Nami said excitedly, carrying a large sack. Stop. Who are you? Why haven't I seen you? The two pirates guarding the ship were stunned when they saw a black figure appearing in the cabin, and then shouted loudly. Nami stuck out her tongue, winked at the two in a funny way, and then kicked the bottom of the two with a flirtatious leg. Ah! The screams came from the Alvita pirates. Fat woman Iron Rod Alvita turned her head in surprise and saw Nami oncoming. There are thieves who dare to steal from me. Alvita yelled angrily. Obviously, Due to Luffy's absence, the plot has deviated from the main line it should have. Nami was startled when she heard Alvita's cry, and she trembled in fright when she looked at Alvita, who weighed several hundred kilograms. Although she is a cadre of the Dragon Pirates in name, but to put it bluntly, she is just an 18-year-old girl. Advertisement. It might be okay to deal with ordinary minions, but it still pales in comparison to these bounty criminals. Alvita held a huge mace and rushed towards Nami at a speed that didn't match her figure. Nami exclaimed, and hurriedly rolled on a donkey next to him. With a bang, a huge hole was punched out on the deck. Nami looked at the hole made by the mace in shock. If he hit it, he would never die or be seriously injured. And the angry Alvita would not give Nami a chance to breathe, she just made a backhand without any pause, and the huge mace hit Nami's head. Nami's eyes were terrified and she wanted to avoid it, but she slowed down because she was reluctant to part with the treasure on her back, and then she closed her eyes in despair, to meet the next heavy blow. The mace was about to hit Nami's head. Suddenly she felt a powerful arm pull her into her arms, and the huge mace whizzed past Nami's hair. Hello, beautiful lady, nice to meet you. An aristocratic greeting came to Nami's ears. Nami opened his eyes in surprise, and found himself in the arms of a man wearing a straw hat, and he was standing on top of the waves made of water. Are you a god? Nami asked subconsciously in a daze. Then she reacted with a squeal as he spotted giant sea kings surrounding the waves. That's right, these are all the food reserves that Luffy prepared in advance to prevent himself from starving to death, and he was going to slaughter them all for food when the character reset time came. Don't be nervous, just write food reserves. Luffy smiled and dismissed the sea kings around. Now that Nami and the merchant ship have been found, the food has become redundant. Little devil, who are you? How dare you spoil my good deed? Advertisement. Alvita below shouted at Luffy angrily. The little guy on the side looked at Luffy's appearance like Poseidon, the sea god, and quickly whispered to Alvita. Captain, he can stand on the sea, he is a devil. Alvita was taken aback. The legendary demon fruit power. Even devil fruit has become like a legend under the sweep of East Blue due to Garp. Holding the sea god trident, King Luffy grinned at Alvita below. Olewa Luffy is an adventurer. Adventurer. What is that? Alvita was taken aback. In the world of One Piece, there are three kinds of people who can go to sea: marine, pirate, and merchant. All navigators without world government approval are all defined as pirates, and there is no such thing as an adventurer. It's clear that the world government doesn't want people looking for history on the Grand Line, or something that threatens their rule. Therefore, the adventurers mentioned by Luffy do not exist in the world of pirates. But Luffy is a time traveler, and he knows how Nami hates pirates. If he says he is a pirate as in the original book, it is equivalent to choosing the most difficult path when there is a quick way to clear the level. No one would do that unless they were well fed. And don't look at Luffy walking through the Grand Line smoothly, but that's only because of the existence of the protagonist's halo. Pirates in the whole One Piece world belong to street rats that everyone shouts and beats. Except for some ruthless villains who make up their minds to burn, kill and loot, no one is full enough to be a pirate. So Luffy didn't intend to take risks at sea according to the identity of the original book. Isn't it good to be a marine? Covered by Garp, he was definitely walking sideways before his identity as Joey Boy was exposed. Advertisement Chapter 4 Luffy said, Lousy hates pirates the most. Advertisement. You must know that although Luffy in the original book gives people the feeling of a simple silly boy doing good deeds unintentionally when watching anime. But when you really think about it, Luffy isn't really a good guy by any means. The prisoners he unleashed at Impel Down alone were enough to undo all previous unintentional acts of kindness. You must know that they are extremely ferocious and cruel villains that Marine has captured for hundreds of years. It would be a disaster for civilians in the whole world to release them at sea. What's more, what Luffy has done has reduced Marine's dominance in the Grand Line, and more villains have gone to the Grand Line to become pirates. This is enough to show that the existence of Luffy may have a role in overthrowing the rule of celestial dragons. He caused chaos in the sea. But for the common people at the bottom of the world, Luffy definitely exists like a demon. So Wong Luffy decided that he would never admit that he was a pirate. With the name of Old Man Garp, wouldn't it be so simple and easy to get a casual job in Marine? Isn't this freer than pirates? Just kidding, only when my brain is broken will I run to be a pirate. Even if Celestial Dragons finds out that he is Joey Boy, being a liberated revolutionary army is more than pirates. At this time, Nami heard that Luffy was not a pirate, and sure enough, her favorability rose instantly, and even Shendu was a little excited when she looked at Luffy. Luffy nodded in satisfaction when he saw it from the corner of his eye. If there is a strategy, you don't have to choose the most difficult route, then it's not a fool. Luffy didn't answer Alvita's question, he directly pointed the sea god trident in his hand towards the sky. What I hate the most in my life is your kind of pirate who burns, kills, loots, does all kinds of evil, and steals people's villages. You are unlucky to meet me. As the grandson of marine hero Garp, it is my duty to save innocent girls who are attacked, so go die. After speaking, Luffy suddenly raised the trident high, and a flash of lightning shot straight into the sky. The sky suddenly became cloudy. Advertisement. Thunderbolts flashed from the dark clouds. Ray! Luffy shouted loudly, and a huge lightning bolt fell directly from the sky. The climate control attached to the trident made Luffy look like a god at this time, and Nami's eyes were shining with gold in his arms. If this person might really be able to save Kokoja village. Boom! The loud noise and the dazzling thunder and lightning enveloped the Alvita pirates, and the terrifying lightning directly split the pirate ship into pieces. All the pirates who were still on the pirate ship were completely black and floating on the sea surface. Alvita, the iron rod with 5 million Baileys, fainted directly on the sea surface. Tisk tisk, it's not dead, the physique of pirate world is really terrifying. Luffy looked at Alvita who was still alive and sighed. The surviving pirates who jumped onto the merchant ship before were so frightened that their legs trembled and they sat down on the deck. What's more, they were so scared that they peed their pants. From their point of view, this is no longer something that humans can do, and Luffy at this time is like a god in their eyes like Enel. Luffy pushes the waves onto the deck with Nami. Looking at the trembling pirate, he waved his hands to the shocked merchant captain and crew. The captain trotted to Luffy. My lord, what are your orders? Prepare me something to eat. I want to invite this lady to lunch and tie up these pirates. Marine should be here soon. Don't forget to scoop up the Alvita underwater, that's 5 million walking. Advertisement. Luffy spoke to the captain. Also, the treasures carried by this lady are the spoils she snatched from the pirate ship. I don't want anyone to take advantage of these treasures, understand? The captain on the opposite side nodded repeatedly after hearing this, and Nami next to him heard the last sentence, and his favorability for Luffy rose again. Good man. Not only did he kill the pirate, but he also gave himself the treasure openly. You must know that if these treasures are really discovered by Marine, they will definitely be confiscated. After all, these are all stolen money. But at this time, Luffy told everyone on the boat that they would never dare to mention these treasures again, so that he could own these treasures openly. Nami said gratefully to Luffy, thank you. Luffy was secretly delighted. This strategy is different, the favorability is going to explode every minute, okay. Soon Luffy and Nami were taken to a separate box, and dishes of delicious food were brought to the table. Luffy, who has been eating Sea King sashimi, burst into tears when he saw the hot dishes on the table. Nima, how long has it been since I ate normal food? You must know that he has been surfing the sea for a week, and the only cooked food he can eat is probably Sea King's smashed with lightning. Not as good as the original sashimi. Nami looked at the tearful Luffy in surprise and asked, what's wrong with you? Luffy wiped the tears from the corner of his mouth and waved his hand. It's okay, I'm just so touched, you are the first girl to eat with me. Nami broke the defense instantly when he heard the words, didn't such an excellent person have a womanhood before? Just when Nami was about to reward Luffy, the captain led a marine officer in untimely. Mr. Luffy, Colonel Marine Joey is here. Advertisement Chapter 5 Be a Marine through the back door. Advertisement. A man wearing a cloak of justice came through the door. Hi, my name is Joey's, Colonel Naval Headquarters. Marine smiled and stretched out her hand. Thank you very much for saving this merchant ship. Luffy suddenly extended his arm and shook his hand. This startled Colonel Joey's devil fruit and ability users. Don't get excited, Luffy said with a chuckle. I didn't expect to meet the colonel of the headquarters in East Blue. Did you hang out with my grandpa? You must know that Marine, who is a colonel in the headquarters, has either mastered elementary hockey, or some ability users who have eaten devil fruit. In the weakest East Blue, where this bounty is rare, it is impossible to have a bounty of this level. Your grandfather. Joey was taken aback. I don't know if your grandpa is. Vice Admiral Garp. Luffy smiled and spoke to Colonel Joey's. Joey's complexion changed instantly, and he directly saluted Luffy. I didn't expect it to be the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp. It really is the grandson of Lord Tiger without a dog. On behalf of Marine, I thank you, Master. The captain and Nami on the side were stunned when they heard this. Luffy squinted his eyes and waved his hands. You don't need to be so respectful. I'm not a Marine, I'm just a commoner now. Why don't you salute a naval headquarters colonel? The Alvita pirates this time is just a matter of convenience, but I hope you can give me the amount of this guy's reward. I think this lady needs this money very urgently. Colonel Joey's nodded quickly and said, no problem, I will go with you, young master, to redeem this bounty. Luffy nodded. This is the real princess going to the countryside. Obviously, he has a strong background, so that he is like a mouse wherever he goes. Everyone shouts and beats him. This is full. Luffy nodded to Joey's with satisfaction. Go and tell my grandfather, I want to be a Marine, and I want to get a part-time job in the Marine. Remember to say it's a part-time job. Tell him if he disagrees, I will become a pirate. Joey froze for a moment, then nodded hurriedly. I'll go down and communicate with the old man. Immediately, Joey walked out in a hurry. Ordinarily, with Garp's personality, it would be better to go to Sengoku directly to ask him for Marine duty, because Garp will throw himself at the grassroots level and start training as a Marine. Advertisement. But if he threatens to be a pirate if he disagrees, even Garp will definitely compromise, although he will not hinder his grandson's will. But he still hopes that Luffy and Ace can be a Marine safely. After all, as Doflamingo said, Marine is the most powerful force in this sea. Moreover, he is also a dignified teacher of justice. Although it is inevitable that there are some moths, compared with pirates, they can be ignored. Of course, the safety factor of being a Marine is infinitely stronger than being a pirate. So when Garp in the marshal's office received a phone bug call from Joey's, a subordinate in East Blue who was visiting relatives. Even the senbei in my mouth can't be bothered to chew. He jumped up from his seat, startling Sengoku who had just entered the room. Garp, what are you doing? Surprised, Sengoku looked at the agitated Garp speechlessly and frowned and asked. Garp didn't respond to Sengoku's intentions at all, but turned to the phone bug to confirm again. Are you sure that kid is going to be Marine? Not one piece. Joey suddenly looked at Kaido, the phone bug, with a puzzled look on his face. he said that if you don't give him a free job, he will run off to become a pirate. Ha 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 ha. Garp suddenly laughed happily. Finally a grandson enlightened him and relieved his worries. Sengoku looked at the excited Garp wondering, what happened? Garp looked at Sengoku proudly and said, my grandson. He's going to be a marine. Grandson. Sengoku was taken aback for a moment. Then he thought of Garp's son, the most vicious criminal in the world, Monkey D. Dragon. Didn't you say that your grandson is going to be a pirate? Sengoku asked with a surprised face. Then who knows, anyway, he's enlightened, and asked someone to come to the marine to take a casual job, so he won't be a pirate. Ha ha ha. Advertisement. Garp laughed excitedly like a child. Sengoku looked at Garp with disgust, and Luffy's arrogant marine second-generation appearance in naval headquarters came to mind. After all, everyone turns a blind eye to this kind of thing, and it is quite common to stuff a few relatives to pay for the empty salary. How did you plan? Sengoku asked Garp with a frown. Ordinarily, with Garp's temper, he must have thrown Luffy into the barracks as a soldier. How about a freelance job with Marine Commodore? Garp picked his nostrils and said, Sengoku. Are you crazy, Commodore? You're the F***G Vice Admiral. Sengoku rolled his eyes at this unreliable colleague, then Sengoku asked Garp. What strength is he? Garp touched his chin and said, from the last time I saw him, he should be stronger than seaman recruit. Sengoku. Sengoku said in a daze, are you crazy? Let a seaman recruit take up the idle position of Marine Commodore. How can he be a seaman recruit after all these years under your command? Garp picked his nostrils and said, he has been making noises about being a pirate, and I can't pass him the 6 moves. Fortunately, I only polished his foundation. It would be good to have seaman recruit, but it's demon fruit power. Sengoku glanced at Garp twice. This guy really has nothing to do with Marines' implementation of justice, no wonder he can become a hero in the hearts of many Marines. Garp didn't teach his grandson the bad street moves in the second half of the Grand Line, such as 6 forms, even though he wasn't sure that he would be a Marine. How did he know that Garp actually secretly passed the 6-form final esoteric life return directly to the 3 of Luffy? Otherwise, it would be impossible for Luffy to overcome difficulties again and again by eating meat in the later adventures. Sengoku glanced at this colleague who was unwilling to be promoted to admiral all his life, and finally softened his heart and made a decision that he regretted very much. In this case, let him be a colonel of naval headquarters first. Anyway, he is also demon fruit power, nor a breach of discipline. Garp nodded in distaste. That's fine, give me the military uniform epaulets, and I'll send them myself. It's a rare time for selfishness, and I didn't win a Commodore. Hey, my influence is gone. Sengoku. Get out. Advertisement Chapter 6 Nami's Plea. Advertisement. At this time, Nami looked at Luffy opposite with a shocked face. You are the grandson of marine hero Garp. Luffy waved his hand calmly. Calm down, it's all useless. You must know that Garp is absolutely legendary in East Blue. It is precisely because of Luffy and Ace that Garp wanders around East Blue on vacation when he is free. This also led to the surprisingly good law and order in East Blue. To say that the rest of the world may not have much feeling for Garp's prestige. But in East Blue, the hero Garp, Garp the Fist, is the marine hero that the people of East Blue are most proud of. After all, Garp was chasing Roger the Pirate King and running around. Nami's eyes lit up when she heard the words, and for the first time, a little possibility rose in her heart, who had never had any hope. Maybe Garp can wipe out Arlong's paradise in Kokoyasi village. This marine hero can definitely kill the Murloc Arlong. Nami was no longer interested in the delicious food on the table, she looked at Luffy hesitantly and didn't know whether to speak. Luffy on the opposite side was frantically sweeping the food on the table like a starving ghost. No way, no one can stand eating raw fish 7 days a week. The absence of diarrhea is due to the addition of Luffy's original physique in the Poseidon template. On the opposite side, Nami's gaze finally fixed. She stared at Luffy with firm determination and said solemnly, I hope to ask you a favor. If I can succeed, I am willing to be your cow or horse for the rest of my life. Luffy on the opposite side was taken aback, and stopped what he was doing. Advertisement. He looked at Nami in surprise. He who is familiar with the plot knows that Nami has been brainwashed by the Murloc Arlong over the years and has always believed that Murlocs are creatures superior to humans. She has seen too many deaths of the villager marine over the years. If it weren't for Arlong's billion-dollar agreement, the villagers couldn't stand it any longer, and they decided to fight Arlong to the death, and they were unwilling to let Nami continue to fight alone. Nami will not make up her mind to rebel against Arlong's rule. Originally, I was just trying to gain favor, and I underestimated the influence of my cheap grandfather in the hearts of East Blue people. In particular, Nami wandering alone in East Blue these years to steal the treasures of the pirates is even more impressive to Garp's reputation. This made Nami decide to ask Luffy for help. It will definitely work, Nami secretly encouraged himself. As long as the legendary marine hero is willing to make a move, it will definitely be possible. Luffy smiled and looked at Nami, who had made up his mind, and adjusted his expression, and said to Nami with a serious look on his face, listen carefully, if you need help, just say it. Looking at Luffy's appearance, Nami felt a little stable in her heart. Grief flashed in her eyes, and the memories of the past flooded Nami's eyes like a flood. It all started 8 years ago. Then Nami told Luffy that Arlong suddenly appeared 8 years ago, occupied the archipelago where Kokoyasi village is located, collected protection fees for his life, and slaughtered the village if he couldn't pay the money. Even Luffy, who was familiar with the plot, once again heard Nami's eloquent description at this time. He felt angry with Arlong and crushed him. In the past 8 years, countless villagers died under Arlong's brutal rule, and even many villages were massacred because of their resistance to Arlong's tyranny. After hearing these descriptions, Luffy knew that Arlong couldn't be blamed anyway. Not even if humans treacherously killed Fisher Tiger of the Sun Pirates. Advertisement. Incapable of taking revenge on celestial dragons, world government, and marine, instead ravaging the weak to satisfy their false sense of superiority. Luffy was already full of anger at this point. Looking at the tearful Nami, Luffy felt distressed for the first time. Even if he asked Luffy for help, Nami didn't even mention the 100 million agreed with Arlong. Obviously, Nami also hated her joining Arlong Paradise, and she even wanted to die together when Arlong Paradise was destroyed to appease Belle-Mel's soul. Luffy slowly put down the knife and fork in his hand, looked at Nami calmly and said, "Don't worry, leave this matter to me, Arlong. I will definitely tear him to pieces." Nami's face was full of surprise when he heard the words. Originally he just mentioned it, but Luffy actually agreed. You must know that Marine Vice Admiral is not something people like East Blue can meet casually. Each Marine branch is only a Marine at the branch colonel level. The encounter with Colonel Joey's naval headquarters this time was all by chance. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to Nami, Luffy had no intention of asking Garp for help. For a waste of Arlong's level, let alone his current strength far exceeds that in the original book. Arlong can't beat Luffy even in the normal scenario. Since Nami directly proposed to eliminate Arlong, there is no need for him to go to Orange Town to increase his favorability. All he has to do now is wait for his grandfather to give him a title. Then I can justifiably destroy Arlong Paradise, and will not be wanted by Marine. But before that, Luffy turned to Nami and asked. Do you know how to get to Shields? Advertisement Chapter 7 Naval Headquarters Colonel Luffy. Advertisement. Shieldstown. Nami was taken aback. I know, but what are you going to do? Luffy chuckled. There is an idiot Liu Kai who is being tied to the execution rack. I think I should save it. After all, even if you are a Marine, you must have a handyman to help deal with mobs. Execution rack. Nami frowned upon hearing this. Is it a pirate? Luffy seemed to understand her concerns. Don't worry, it's a pirate hunter. Nanoroya Zoro, the legendary pirate hunter. Nami opened his mouth in surprise and exclaimed. That idiot might really die at the hands of a group of scum if no one saves him. Luffy shook his head. In order to save the little girl's restaurant in Shields Town, Zoro made a bet with Belumbo and was tied to the execution rack and exposed to the sun for 30 days. It's a pity that Belumbo never planned to abide by the agreement from the beginning to the end. If Luffy didn't go, the future great swordsman might really die in this nameless town. Nami was confused and didn't know what Luffy meant, but finally nodded. I know how to get there. Shall we go right away? As long as she is not saving pirates, Nami is still kind-hearted, and she has an unforgettable hatred for pirates. Luffy waved his hand. Don't worry, finish your meal first. You don't know how painful it is to be hungry at sea. Nami was speechless for a moment. Then Luffy ate all the delicious food on the table like a storm. Ah, I'm full. Luffy stretched contentedly, very satisfied with this long-lost feast. Advertisement. Nami on the opposite side is absent-minded. With Luffy's promise, she can't wait to fly back to rescue the villagers of Kokoyasi village from the fire and water. At this time, Colonel Joey's of Naval Headquarters also came in from the door. Master. Congratulations, Master Garp has agreed to your request, and is now coming from Naval Headquarters to give you military badges and marine clothing. Joey smiled and said to Luffy. Countless MMPs roared in his heart, this is Colonel Naval Headquarters. I have worked hard for so long to be promoted to this level, and I have been directly promoted to this level with a word. It is really a dog. What level? Nami on the side asked curiously. Colonel Naval Headquarters. Joey said bitterly, on the same level as me. Luffy was a little surprised when he heard that. He didn't expect the old man to be so powerful, he would directly get him such a high position. Colonel Naval Headquarters, even though he doesn't even have the title of general, but in the 4 seas outside the Grand Line, the rank of colonel in the branch is already the biggest officer. At the level of Colonel Naval Headquarters, I can be said to walk sideways at will. Luffy was in a good mood, and smiled and patted Joey's shoulder. We will be colleagues from now on, ha ha ha. Joey's laughed along with him. Luffy turned to him and said, I'm going to Shields Town, you go with me. Joey was taken aback for a moment. Shields Town. Where is that? Joey's, whose main activity is on the Grand Line, has little contact with branches like East Blue except his hometown. Luffy rubbed his chin. I heard that a marine scum came out there, wantonly plundering the villagers, fat and anointing. I went this time to eliminate harm for the people. Advertisement. After hearing this, Joey's immediately shared the same hatred. As a native of East Blue, he was like a general who was fighting outside. At this time, he heard that his relatives were being detained by the local county magistrate, so he was naturally extremely upset. Don't worry, we'll set off right away. But I don't have a chart of Shields Town. Luffy waved his hand, pointed at Nami and said, the best navigator in the world is standing in front of you, what chart do you want? Joey's looked at Nami in astonishment, then nodded and said, then please miss. Nami on the side suddenly felt a little flustered. No matter whether he was a marine, a pirate or a businessman, as long as he knew his identity, no one would not look down on him when he went to sea. When will you be respected by such a big marine chief? Luffy looked at the happy Nami and laughed a few words. When I watched anime in my previous life, I felt that Luffy, a two-fool, played a good hand of cards to pieces. There are so many resources not to be used, but to take a path of betrayal. If you're a pirate, being Marine's grandfather won't help you at all. At most, it can only release water in a subtle way. But what if you were a marine? Just kidding. Will Redhead, Dragon, and Ace fight you with swords because you were a marine? No, in fact they still treat you like a brother who died. This is where pirates are free. But this kind of freedom is of no use to Luffy. If it weren't for Luffy's connections, it is estimated that he would have been strangled in the cradle by the Five Elders when he declared war with the world government. The so-called freedom is only based on the supremacy of strength. Unfortunately, Luffy in the original book is simply a willful novice who only knows how to move forward. If Luffy has a marine status, Alabasta's achievements will not be given to Smoker. Soon several people boarded the warship and set off towards Shield's town. And at this moment, ding dong, the Poseidon template has expired, the loading template has been reset, and the recovery rate has been saved at 10%, the next template is randomly selected. Advertisement Chapter 8 New Template 10 Cold Lee Jing. Advertisement. Huh, is it time? Luffy was taken aback for a moment. What's the time? Nami on the side asked curiously. As soon as the words fell, the Poseidon trident in Luffy's hand dissipated like sand grains and floated in the air. And Luffy also felt that Poseidon's passive bonuses disappeared instantly. His physique suddenly weakened. Tisk tisk, it feels like my body has been hollowed out. Luffy sighed helplessly. Nami on the side spat. What are you talking about? Why is your dung fork gone? Luffy. That's the Poseidon trident, the legendary artifact used by Poseidon. It's not a fork dung. Nami looked at the excited Luffy and stuck out her tongue playfully. It looks like the fork that Belle Mel used to fatten the orange tree. Luffy rubbed the corners of her eyes in pain, and she couldn't look directly at the dung fork she once held in her hand. Bah, the Poseidon trident is up. Luffy waved his hands, feeling the changes in his body. As he thought, observation Haki didn't disappear just because the Poseidon template disappeared. At most, it was because of the disappearance of super perception skills, and the range was much weaker. In terms of physical strength, it is already comparable to Luffy who is in the second gear of the capital of Seven Waters. Unfortunately, he has not yet worked out how to use the second gear. Luffy felt a pity that he was not able to solidify a Poseidon's power due to insufficient reduction. Luffy shook his head helplessly, thinking silently. Then the next template. Ding dong. Random. Congratulations for getting this random template. Lee Jing. Close black lens bracket. Lee Jing. Luffy was taken aback. The name sounded extremely familiar but he didn't remember it for a while. Advertisement. It wasn't until a middle-aged man in an ancient gown appeared in midair with a phantom holding a sword that Luffy's pupils suddenly shrank. It turned out to be him. Luffy was overjoyed. Very cold Lee Jing. The number one swordsman of the Shang dynasty. And he is most famous for that truly terrifying law of causality skill. 100% received empty-handed blade technique. Ding dong, Lee Jing's template has been equipped. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes. Open black lens bracket current reduction rate is 0% close black lens bracket. Please check the property panel for detailed properties. Open the properties panel. Luffy couldn't wait to look into his mind, wanting to confirm if it was what he thought. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Current loading template. Shi Leng Li Jing. Equipment. Sword. Talent ability. 100% being caught empty-handed. Skills. 100% being empty-handed to the sword, single body, 100% to being empty-handed to the sword group, 100% to being empty-handed to the sword, specified, peerless swordsmanship. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes. Character restoration degree, 0. Sure enough. Luffy came back from his mind in surprise. Very cold Lee Jing. Possess an unsolvable causality level skill. This skill does not need to be restored at all to show its full strength. As soon as Luffy stretched out his hand, a long sword appeared in Nami's surprised eyes. Advertisement. Luffy chuckled, drew out his long sword and waved it out of thin air. Ah, Nami exclaimed, and his whole body appeared uncontrollably in front of Luffy in an instant, half kneeling on the ground, holding Luffy's long sword with both hands. Haha, this skill is fun. Luffy laughed excitedly. Nami knelt on the spot with a dazed face. Who I am? Where am I? What am I doing? When did I get so fast that I ran up to Luffy in an instant and caught his sword? Luffy put away the long sword in satisfaction. Sure enough. No matter how weakened this causal level skill is, it is still at the causal level. What surprised Luffy even more was Lee Jing's unparalleled swordsmanship. Because of the level of causality, Lee Jing's unparalleled swordsmanship was not noticed. But the swordsmanship of the number one swordsman in the Shang dynasty was quite terrifying. That was the Shang dynasty. Although it was not as good as the original function period, there were still many monsters. Being able to sit in Chantangwan is enough to show the gold content of Lee Jing, the number one swordsman of the Shang dynasty. The only shot was to split the serrated dragon beast, which was even bigger than Tyrannosaurus Rex, into two with one easy blow. The knowledge of countless sword techniques such as hooking, hanging, pointing, picking, stabbing, teasing, and chopping was introduced into Luffy's mind. The sword is in harmony with the body is in harmony with the chi, and the chi is in harmony with the spirit. With a wave of the sword, Luffy suddenly splits out and splits into a stream in the sea. You actually know the way of the sword. Nami was surprised to see Luffy's handsome posture of withdrawing his sword. You must know that swordsmanship in the world of One Piece is the only way of training that is divided from physical skills. Is it the way of the sword? Luffy touched his chin. It's all useless, haha. Lee Jing's so-called swordsman is the way of swordsmanship of Blue Star in his previous life, which is different from the way of swordsmanship in One Piece. Luffy could feel that if he could display the full strength of Lee Jing's swordsmanship, it shouldn't be a big problem to fight Hawkeye for 3,000 rounds. And just when Luffy was about to practice Lee Jing's swordsmanship to improve the restoration speed, the watchman's voice came from the tower. Report to Colonel Luffy. Seeing shields. Advertisement Chapter 9 Marine Borers. Advertisement. So fast. Luffy looked at the small island looming in the distance in surprise. You must know that he has been in the sea for 7 days without touching a hair. Luffy felt once again how important it is to be a good navigator. Let's go, old Joe, take a group of soldiers with me to smash the field. Bah, come with me to inspect. Luffy waved at Colonel Marine and said. Joey's hurriedly assembled a team of Marines and landed towards Shield's town. Looking around, the huge Marine base stands in the center of the island. The comings and goings of Shield's town seemed peaceful. Colonel Luffy, why do I see that this town is not ruled by the scumbag Marine as you said? Joey asked, frowning, looking at the noisy town not far away. Oh, Luffy glanced sideways at Joey's and said, you go to the town first and then talk about it. Joey's looked suspicious, but he still led the Marines and followed Luffy towards the town. However, as Luffy expected, the residents of the town saw Joey's and others wearing Marine costumes, like a mouse seeing a cat, and they were scared to stay away. This made Joey's finally realize that something was wrong with this town. It stands to reason that no matter which island Marine is on, he is like a patron saint, especially in East Blue. However, at this time, the residents of the small town saw Marine as if they were seeing a ghost, which made Joey frown deeply. The crowd went straight to the tallest Marine base in the town without stopping. What surprised Joey's was that the huge Marine base gate was closed and there was not even a Marine guarding it. Little devil, do you want to die? Get lost. A low shout came from the Marine base. A little girl's voice replied without any anger. Big brother, you haven't eaten all this time, right? Here, I made rice balls. Although it's the first time I made them with great care. Advertisement. I'm not hungry, you are an eyesore, go back quickly. But, I told you I don't want it. Be careful, I'll beat you. Nami and Joey's outside the wall frowned when they heard the man's roar, wondering who was so vile to threaten a little girl. Only Luffy smiled crookedly, one hand slammed towards the wall, and the other hand wrapped around Nami's slender waist and jumped onto the wall of Marine base like a slingshot. Seeing this, Joey quickly shaved and followed the wall. However, what the two of them did not expect was that there is no picture of a vicious man threatening the little girl. Instead, a man covered in scars and wearing a turban was trapped on the cross, and the little girl reached out with a rice ball and was handing it to the man. As this Zoro the pirate hunter. Nami looked at the scarred man in front of him in surprise. How did he make it like this? Wouldn't he eat the food that the little girl kindly gave him? And at this moment, the door outside the execution ground opened. A young man with blonde hair and butt face who was extremely ugly led two sailors and walked in slowly. Don't bully people. Zoro frowned and looked in the direction of the three of them. He, I didn't expect you to be so energetic, Noah Zoro. The person who came was the son of Menka, the playboy Balloon. Why does this guy look so bad? Nami frowned and said, looking at Belumbo, who was wearing gold and silver and holding his collar, walking in. Luffy nodded in agreement. Belumbo walked up to the little girl and bowed down. Oh, this rice ball seems delicious. After finishing speaking, regardless of the little girl's obstruction, he reached out and grabbed one and stuffed it into his mouth. Nami and Joey's on the wall frowned. Advertisement. This guy is so hateful. Nami clenched his fists angrily. Belumbo suddenly opened his eyes and shouted. Ah, it's so sweet. What a piece of crap. It's full of sugar. The rice balls should be salted. Add salt. But, I think sweet ones are better, the little girl explained with tears in her eyes. Belumbo slapped all the rice balls in the little girl's hand to the ground. This kind of thing, this kind of thing. Belumbo stepped on the rice balls under his feet while shouting. Nami's eyes were already burning with anger. Joey couldn't help but shook his fist. If it wasn't for seeing that he wasn't wearing a Marine costume, he probably couldn't help but go up and beat him up at this time. The little girl couldn't stop the tears from her eyes as she watched the rice balls she worked so hard to be trampled to pieces. Belumbo took out a notice from his pocket with a ferocious face. Tisk tisk, didn't you read this notice? Those who help criminals will also be sentenced to death. Colonel Marine Monka. Hehehehe. Even if you're a kid, you know how scary my dad is. Hey, throw this kid out. Marine behind him looked at Belumbo in astonishment. This is a 5-year-old child. But I said, throw her out of the fence. Didn't you hear my order? Be careful, I'm going to sue my father. Belumbo looked at Marine who was motionless and grabbed his collar and shouted. The Marine soldier struggled for a long time, but finally nodded to Monka's fear. Sorry, little sister, Curl up your body. The marine soldier whispered apologetically to the little girl. In the next second, she was sent flying out of the 8-meter-high wall. At this time, the people on the city wall couldn't bear it anymore. Joey's jumped up and caught the little girl. Nami shouted angrily, "Are you still human? He's just a child." Belumbo looked at the city wall in surprise. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the marine base?" Luffy jumped directly from the high wall and walked straight to where Belumbo was. Advertisement Chapter 10 Great Swordsman Luffy. Take down the Zoro. Advertisement. What are you doing? Belumbo yelled presumptuously, "Do you know who my father is?" Luffy turned a deaf ear and walked straight forward. "My father is the marine hero Colonel Monka. How dare you resist my father?" Belumbo shouted triumphantly. At this time, Luffy has already walked in front of Belumbo. Belumbo looked at Luffy arrogantly and said, "Try to touch me. Have you seen this pirate hunter? He was too arrogant at the time, didn't he still let me be tied here willingly? As long as you dare to touch me, I will destroy the residents of the town, ha ha ha." Nami gritted his teeth listening from behind. This scumbag. Colonel Naval Headquarters also looked at Beru Meber with a livid face. He never imagined that there would be such a scum in the East Blue Marine ruled by Garp. Joey's figure also caught the eyes of the two Marines. This is. The two Marines were taken aback, looking at the cape Joey's was wearing, a cape that only Marines above the Naval Headquarters school level can wear. But at this moment, Belumbo didn't notice Joey's at all. Luffy looked at Beru Meebo expressionlessly, and directly slapped Beru Meebo hard on the face. Under the unbelievable eyes of Belumbo, he flew directly 5 meters away. "How dare you hit me?" Belumbo asked in a dazed manner, spitting out the big teeth that had been slapped out of his mouth. "Beat you." Luffy rushed to Belumbo again and kicked him hard. Advertisement. "I dare to kick you." Belumbo yelled in pain. "Are you still watching? Kill him quickly. Do you know who my father is? My father is Menka." However, what greeted him was still a huge fist. The two Marines guarding him were just about to pick up the firecrackers behind them. Joey sneered. "Do you dare to try?" The two sailors froze in place for an instant. This was Colonel Naval Headquarters. Although his title was equal, everyone knew that the headquarters had a much higher gold content than the colonel of the branch. Luffy blasted Belumbo. "Fighting father. In the past life, I may not have fought you. In this life, you dare to fight me as a waste." Luffy said that his hands were not idle, and his fists hit Belumbo like a rainstorm. Knowing that Belumbo couldn't see human form, Luffy spat and stopped. The two sailors watched with trepidation. "You too. The head of this branch has been replaced. Lock up this B*************** D in the fish and meat town for me." Luffy waved to the two Marines and said. The two sailors hesitated and didn't know what to do, they all looked at Joey's. Joey waved his hand. "Master Luffy is a naval headquarters colonel who is on the same level as me, but the transfer order has not yet come down." "Master." The two Marines were shocked. This is the naval headquarters colonel who is better than Monkadu, and he also called the Straw Hat Boy in front of him master. This time, Belumbo has encountered a hard problem. The two looked at each other with joy on their faces. They were both from Shield's town. They had long been dissatisfied with their relatives being exploited by Monka. Now that Marine, who is more powerful than Monka, stood up, they would definitely wish for it. The two happily tied up the outrageous Belumbo. This made Zoro, who was tied on the cross, dumbfounded, completely confused about the situation. Advertisement. Luffy shook the bloodline in his hand. He walked up to Zoro calmly and said, "Noah Zoro, the pirate hunter, are you interested in being a Marine with me? There are so many sword masters in the Marine, even if your goal is Mihawk, the world's #1 swordsman. Also belongs to 7 warlords of the sea with Marine." Hawkeye. Zoro's eyes lit up when he heard Luffy's words, and then he frowned again. "My goal is to be the world's #1 swordsman. I don't want to be a Marine stationed on an island and rest on my laurels." "Ha ha ha." Luffy laughed. "Working under me is just a casual job, and I'm going to the Grand Line to fight against the strong, mere East Blue. You'll never reach Hawkeye's level in your lifetime." While speaking, Luffy drew out his long sword with a smile and waved it lightly. A crescent-like sword chi directly tore apart the huge wall of Marine base. Lee Jing's unparalleled swordsmanship. When the target is not a creature or object with hands, its power is as powerful as that of a great swordsman. Zoro's eyes flashed when he saw this. "You are also a great swordsman." With his strength at this time, it is simply not enough to complete the flying slash. Not to mention breaking the solid Marine base. Even Joey's on the side looked at Luffy in shock. Along the way, he just thought that Luffy had good strength relying on Devil Fruit's ability. But now it seems that the boss's grandson has unfathomable strength. Luffy didn't answer Zoro, just looked at Zoro with a smile. Zoro looked at the huge crack in the wall, and the look in his eyes gradually hardened. "I want to become the world's #1 swordsman. I can't die here. I agree to be your subordinate." When Luffy heard this, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. "Who broke my wall?" At this moment, an angry shout came from outside. Advertisement Chapter 11 Really? As long as you have hands, ask for flowers. Advertisement. Everyone looked back. I saw Colonel Monka with a broken axe in his hand leading a group of Marines and dragging a huge statue to the door. The reason why no one is on duty today is that Menka took people to pull the huge statue he carved for himself. "Who are you? Do you know the consequences of resisting me?" Monka threatened Luffy with an axe in hand. Luffy looked at Monka with a strange expression and said, it seems that Zengo's hypnosis not only ruined your character hypnosis, but also your brain hypnosis. The consequences. You are just a mere colonel of the East Blue branch. Shut up. I'm the marine hero who killed 100 Chloe. How dare you speak to me like that? Monka looked at the fearless Luffy and his face changed drastically. Since he was hypnosis by Chloe, he feels that he has become a hero of marine, and everyone should be grateful to himself. Luffy looked at Monka sympathetically. You really are an idiot. I decided to seek revenge for you after you die. How can you say that you were once a qualified marine with a mission of justice? Nami looked at Luffy puzzled and asked, what do you mean? Zoro and the marines also looked at Luffy strangely, wondering what he meant when he said that Monka was a qualified marine. The reason why this guy was promoted to Captain Marine was to capture and kill Baiji Crow, the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, who offered a bounty of 16 million Baileys. But the reality is that Crow was tired of Marine's endless pursuit. After destroying the warship he was on, he asked his subordinates to praise hypnosis. He and one of his subordinates acted out a scene of suspended animation. After the promotion, this guy suddenly felt the taste of power, so he let himself go and became a marine moth that did harm to one side. Monka on the opposite side yelled at Luffy with an ugly face, impossible. I obviously caught Crow with my own hands. The captain of the Black Cat Pirates has also been replaced by hypnosis master Zhang Gao. Crow was obviously killed by me. What evidence do you have that Crow is not dead? Luffy looked at Monka with contempt. I just see you pitifully telling you a cruel fact, evidence. Do I need that kind of thing? Monka glared at Luffy and yelled, come on, shoot him. But the colonel, behind him are the colonel of the headquarters and the villagers. Monka directly turned his head and slashed at the talking marine, shut up. It's all faked by pirates. How could Colonel Naval Headquarters appear in East Blue? Joey's looked at the completely hopeless Monka with a livid face and was about to make a move. Advertisement. Luffy directly pulled out the long sword at his waist and waved it lightly. Ha ha ha, are you going to salute me before you die? Monka looked at Luffy's actions with contempt. Who would have thought that an invisible force would directly act on him? Under everyone's unbelievable gazes, Menka knelt down in front of Luffy and clamped Luffy's long sword with his palms together. 100% being caught empty-handed. However, what Luffy didn't expect was that since one hand was an axe. At the moment of receiving the sword, the huge axe directly cut off Menka's other hand. Well, Luffy looked awkwardly at Monka who was lying on the ground and writhing in pain. Sorry, I forgot that you are disabled. UB asterisk 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 D. Monka jumped up from the ground angrily, and slashed at Luffy with an axe. Nami on the side exclaimed. Luffy waved his hand contemptuously, and a huge sword mark appeared on Menka's body. You don't even have a hand, and you want to take Lee Jing's sword. Please, please stop. At this time, Marine on the opposite side raised a firecracker and shouted tremblingly at Luffy. He is the colonel of our branch after all, please don't embarrass us. Luffy gave the person opposite him a sideways glance. What did you guys do long ago? Even this kind of scum doesn't know how to resist. Marine on the opposite side lowered his gun in shame. We can't beat him. He is no longer a branch colonel as of today, by order of Vice Admiral Garp himself. At this time, Joey's put down the phone report in his hand and said. Just now he had contacted Garp and told Garp about the incident in Shield's town. Advertisement. The Marines looked at each other, and dropped the guns in their hands to the ground, with a hint of joy on their expressions. Luffy kicked the dying Monka to the side. With his own sword just now, this guy will never live long. This kind of person can still let his unreliable grandfather go, Luffy naturally won't let him live until then. Go and get this guy's knife. Luffy pointed to Zoro and said. One of them nodded hurriedly. Zoro looked at Luffy with burning eyes. What's the name of that trick you just did? It can suck people in front of you out of thin air. Luffy said to Zoro inscrutably. This is called sword intent. I use my will to force it to catch my sword. When you become a great swordsman, you may be able to use it. I want to fight you one-on-one. Zoro spoke to Luffy excitedly. Nami on the side frowned. What are you talking about? Luffy just saved you. Ah, no, I want to learn the art of swords with him. Zoro exclaimed excitedly. Luffy shook his head indifferently. You are still too weak. After speaking, wave your hand casually. Zoro only felt that he was suddenly enveloped by a strong force, the ropes tied to his body. He snapped involuntarily, and he knelt down in front of Luffy in an instant, clamping his long sword. How can it be? I have no power to resist. What a terrifying sword intent. Zoro was shocked to see Luffy's handsome figure. Only Luffy muttered in his heart. I'm blind to Lee Jing's terrifying swordsmanship. Damn it, is this the legend that you can do it if you have hands? P.S. Anyone watch it? If someone asks for some flowers, hey. Advertisement Chapter 12 Garp comes in person, the ceiling of combat power. Open black lens bracket ask for flowers close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Looking at Zoro and Nami behind him. And respectfully standing in front of a row of Marines standing at attention. Luffy has a feeling of beating a wolf and then going back to speedrunning. In the original book, Zoro was forced to have no choice but to agree with Luffy to become a pirate. In his mind, things like pirates belong to the evil party and crooked ways. And Nami hated pirates from the bottom of his heart. At this time, Luffy relied on Marine's identity so that the two of them would not have the slightest obstacle to joining Luffy's command. Even killing the Menka father and son by himself has become a matter of course for this group of Marines. At this time, everyone was standing at the pier to welcome the arrival of the legendary marine hero Garp. Luffy lay bored on a recliner. This smelly old man's airs are really big enough, and he has to be greeted by me in person. Nami, Zoro, this is what you should do, hey. A mast slowly appeared on the sea level, and a warship with a dog-headed bow slowly approached from the sea level. Is that the legendary marine hero Garp's warship? There was hope in Nami's eyes. Zoro also involuntarily held his 3 knives. After all, they are legendary existences. For the strong, Zoro always wants to challenge and become stronger. The warship was slowly approaching, and a figure wearing a dog's head hat stood at the bow. Is that Vice Admiral Garp? A true marine hero. Marine behind him looked excitedly at his back in the distance. Why is Vice Admiral Garp motionless? Stupid. Vice Admiral Garp is a strong man. Much stronger than Colonel Monka. Standing still shows that Vice Admiral Garp has good concentration. Advertisement. So that's it. Soon the warship arrived. Garp lowered his head and caught everyone's eyes with a big snot bubble on his nose. Everyone. Asleep. Hey, wave. The snot bubble burst and Garp woke up from his sleep. Where am I? Garp looked around in bewilderment. The adjutant on the side hurried forward and said, Vice Admiral Garp, we are sending Luffy a letter of appointment. Oh, yes, Luffy is going to be a marine, ha 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 ha. Garp laughed excitedly. The corner of Luffy's mouth twitched when he looked at it. The original incompetent grandsons became more and more unreliable one by one. It is said that Ace died in front of Luffy, and Luffy suffered the most. However, in order to prevent Marine's justice from collapsing, the pain of Garp, who watched his grandson execute in front of his own eyes, was no less painful than Luffy's, or even better. If it weren't for the flag of the marine hero, and for the confidence of the people on the Grand Line not to collapse, Garp might have rescued Ace long ago. Even so, seeing Ace die tragically in front of him, Garp couldn't help but want to kill Akainu. If Sengoku hadn't discovered and stopped it in time, it is estimated that the Martial Marine will not be able to do it in Akainu's turn 2 years later. Now seeing Luffy decide not to be a pirate and instead to be a marine, Garp's surprise is beyond words. It was Garp's lifelong dream. It's a pity that Garp, who wandered the Grand Line for a long time to catch pirates and maintain the order of the sea, was cut off by the red-hair pirates who came to East Blue to find Rubber Fruit and Ace. Now that Luffy is willing to change his ways, Garp directly puts down his face to find Sengoku to go through the back door, which was impossible before. Advertisement. Everyone looked at the laughing Garp on the boat and wondered, isn't the grandson the marine? Isn't that normal for a marine 3rd generation? They don't know if it wasn't for Wong Luffy's time travel. At this time, Garp has a son of the leader of the Revolutionary Army, the number 1 enemy of the world government, and a grandson of the number 2 enemy, One Piece. Garp looked at Luffy who was lying on the recliner and didn't get up at all, and a big tic-tac-toe appeared on his forehead. Stinky boy, you still can't get up. Try your grandfather's iron fist of my love. Garp roared and appeared in front of Luffy in an instant. Luffy suddenly trembled. FK. So fast. Although he knows that Garp is the ceiling of One Piece world's combat power, he has never really seen it. Luffy, who was already on guard, now found that even with the addition of Guo Jing's Wushwang swordsmanship, he was still like a naughty boy in front of Garp. Boom. There was a burst of severe pain, and Luffy's head swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hiss. Luffy gasped. This is Nima's fist with hockey attached. As a rubber fruit capable user, I am immune to blunt blows. At this time, I felt the piercing pain and realized how important hockey is in the second half of the Grand Line. At this time, Luffy also felt the huge gap between himself and the world's powerhouses, which made Luffy firmer in his determination to take the marine route. If you don't have a backer, it's brain damage. Garp laughed when he saw Luffy's painful mask, and then punched Luffy again. Nima, it's over. With a loud cry, Luffy drew out his long sword and slashed straight down. P.S. There are big guys who read this chapter begging for more flowers. If there is data, the bottom is guaranteed to be updated 5 times a day, and the upper limit is not capped. Advertisement Chapter 13 Garp kneels down, the sword breaks. Open black lens bracket seeking flowers close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Well, I said I didn't mean it, do you believe me? Luffy looked awkwardly at Garp who was kneeling on the ground holding his sword with both hands and said. The eyes of everyone around were staring, and even the eyeballs protruded out of the law of physics. Zoro's eyes flashed. This terrifying sword intent can even hit Garp. Garp also looked at the sword in his hand in astonishment, but instead of being angry, he laughed loudly. Not bad, brat, you are capable. What new devil fruit ability have you developed? No, aren't you rubber fruit? As he spoke, Garp's hands suddenly turned into pitch black, and he clamped them hard. The ordinary long sword attached to Lee Jing's template turned into 2 pieces. A flash of astonishment flashed in Luffy's eyes when he saw this. Although this is just an ordinary stainless steel long sword, it is blessed by Luffy's internal energy. Although Luffy's strength at this time is not enough to play Lee Jing's template, but at this time the longsword is comparable to a big sharp knife, and it should not be a big problem. But such a hard long sword was easily broken by Garp. This made Luffy feel the terrifying strength of his grandfather again. Think about being hit by yourself with a punch in Summit War, it is not as simple as releasing water. Ah, my baby. Luffy looked at the half of the long sword and shouted mournfully. Garp. Advertisement. Okay, stop yelling, what you want? Garp casually tossed the marine uniform, ID, etc. to Luffy. I didn't expect your kid's strength to reach such a level. You are considered qualified. Garp narrowed his eyes and looked at his grandson. Now that he's a Marine, he's still a colonel. Even if he's a nominal one, he can't lose Marine's face. Otherwise I will personally go and capture you back from the sea. The corners of Luffy's mouth twitched. It seemed that the old man planned to take him back to naval headquarters to train like Kirby and Baru Meber in the original book. Fortunately, it was Lee Jing's template who awakened this time. Otherwise, even if Sun Wukong, who was randomly assigned to the 7 Dragon Balls, estimated to display his strength, he could only be hanged in front of Garp. Sure enough, as Vegeta said when he beat Rayleigh, never fight with funny comic characters. Luffy took the clothes with a smile. Don't worry, we are very conscious and good citizens, and we will never do something illegal and disciplined under the skin of Marine. But, Luffy changed the subject. Garp looked at Luffy in surprise. But what? If there are individual Marines like this Menka, who use the name of Marines to collude with pirates to do evil, can I kill them first and then act? Luffy squinted at Garp and said. Garp looked at Luffy meaningfully, and pondered for a while. Yes. As long as Luffy's identity is not a pirate, then by virtue of his status in Marine, as long as he doesn't kill the celestial dragons, then he can keep him. This is the confidence of the legendary seaman and the hero Garp. Advertisement. After all, Garp, who is the fruit of withdrawal, his son is the #1 criminal and often insults celestial dragons, but he can still divide and rule equally with Sengoku. It's a pity that Luffy in her previous life advertised herself as a pirate when she went to sea, which directly blocked Garp's role as a backstage. Otherwise, just relying on Garp's achievements in the Valley of the Gods, it would be enough for Luffy to roam freely in the first half of the Grand Line. Luffy stretched out his hand and gave a thumbs up. Save. As a Marine captain, shouldn't you assign me a warship? Garp looked at Luffy with a dark face. Get out. You are a guy who is idle and has no soldiers, and you still want to waste resources. Make money and buy it from Marine base. TCH, stingy, who said that I have no one left? Look, this is my navigator, this is my ship's mate. Luffy sneered at Garp, pointing at Nami and Zoro. Garp glanced at the two of them sideways, but he didn't see anything special. After all, the strength of the two of them was almost nothing in Garp's view. Anyway, the warships are traded by Marines relying on their military exploits. If you want a warship, go and catch the pirates yourself. Garp said to Luffy with a smile. Catch it, just catch it. It just so happens that Nami's family has a Murloc offering a reward of 20 million Baileys. Killing him should earn you a lot of military merit. Anyway, East Blue, which is also ruled by Marine, allows pirates to camp unscrupulously. Tisk tisk, you guys not very efficient. Garp was taken aback after hearing this, and then realized that if what Luffy said was true, there must be something wrong with the Marine base in charge of that area. Nami was very excited behind him. Luffy really told Garp about his hometown, and Kiki Yaxi village was saved. Garp glanced at Luffy and said, It's us, don't forget that you are also a Marine. I have a mission for you. Go to the place you mentioned and destroy that Murloc. The surrounding Marines will obey your command, and anyone who disobeys, you handle it yourself. A smile cracked at the corner of Luffy's mouth when he heard the words. This is what he wanted. As for letting Garp take action, it was purely an anti-aircraft gun hitting mosquitoes. Besides, how could Luffy, the tool man who built up his favorability in front of Nami, be handed over to Garp? But only Nami behind him looked disappointed, with a hint of despair in his eyes. Advertisement Chapter 14. The nautical chart to the Grand Line. Advertisement. Careful Luffy noticed the change in Nami's mood. But he didn't explain too much. Because the ideas that Arlong brainwashed Nami from a young age cannot be explained clearly in a few sentences. Only by exploding all the negative emotions in Nami's heart can she become the optimistic, sunny and cheerful navigator in the future. Garp left by boat under the eyes of everyone. He came this time to give his grandson a military uniform. In the original book, East Blue was originally intended to capture Luffy and correct him. Today's Garp is still an indispensable combat force active in the second half of the Grand Line to deter the Four Emperors. Now that it has been confirmed that Luffy is indeed going to be a Marine, there is no need for him to stay in East Blue. After all, he is not a Marine admiral, and he is usually very busy. Very good, I got the identity, it's time to help my navigator solve her worries. Luffy stretched his waist and said to everyone. However, Nami behind her showed hesitation on her face, and then she took out a worn-out piece of paper from her bosom. Don't worry about things in the village. See what I found in Monka's office. Said Nami opened a piece of paper with the logo of the clown buggy coming here drawn on it. I also know Shield's town because I heard that Monka has a Grand Line chart. Now that this chart has been taken away by the clown buggy, let's get it back first. After all, didn't you say you were going to the Grand Line? Nami suggested to Luffy. Luffy gave Nami a meaningful look. He knew that Nami no longer wanted to use his own power to deal with Arlong. Because in her opinion, Luffy may not be able to defeat Arlong, and once Arlong finds his resistance, the people in the village will be massacred by Arlong, which is not what she wants to see. What she wants is to be foolproof, which is why she forced a smile on her face after knowing that Arlong had broken the agreement, saying that she could save another 100 million. A chart for the Grand Line. Do you need a chart for the Grand Line? Advertisement. Zoro asked in surprise holding the knife. Luffy, Nami yelled frantically. How the hell did you survive until now? Floating around in a small boat, when you're hungry, kill a few pirates to earn rewards for food. Zoro spread his hands innocently and said. The corner of Luffy's mouth twitched. Compared to his original body, this guy should starve to death the most. If you want. Luffy smiled and nodded to Nami. Zoro also smiled broadly at the side. I don't care. But our ship is really shabby, can't we have a better one? Zoro pointed to the small broken single-sail boat provided by Marine free of charge and said speechlessly. Why don't you blame the old man for saying that you can use military merits in exchange for it? If there is a headquarters warship, then we can freely enter and exit the Grand Line from the Calm Belt. Luffy couldn't help but complain. From the Calm Belt. Nami looked surprised. That's the lair of the Big Sea Kings. No one came out of there alive. Luffy spread his hands. East Blue is the weakest sea, and Grand Line is simply a legend here. Especially after Roger became the Pirate King, Marine paid more attention to killing the East Blue pirates. Coupled with the fact that Garp ran to East Blue when he had nothing to do, this made East Blue extremely safe and also killed East Blue's sources. For the top powerhouses in the second half of the Grand Line, Calm Belt's threat to them is almost negligible. The role of Poseidon is more for war than for individual strength. Advertisement. Marine's Seastone warship is a secret research and development, and it is not known to the outside world at this time. So Nami has never heard of anyone passing the Calm Belt. Luffy jumped onto the boat. Let's go, you lead the way, let's go find the chart. Nami hurriedly jumped on it, followed by Zoro. It feels like there's a good adventure ahead. Zoro leaned against the side of the boat and smiled. I don't know about the adventure, but I know that the rest of my life will definitely be very comfortable. Luffy chuckled, and put the cloak of justice printed on his back directly behind him. This TM is the official version of One Piece's prince going to the countryside, haha. The sound of Luffy's laughter spread throughout the sea with the sound of waves. What he didn't know was that in the newspaper of the next day in the news agency at this time, an inconspicuous Marine appointment announcement had already printed his image. At this time, on the boat where Luffy was, a cold front accompanied by low clouds has been discovered in the southern sky. I'm afraid there will be a violent storm soon. Nami looked at the clouds in the south and said to Luffy and Zoro, who were sweating profusely. Hey, Nami, you two bastards, can you stop practicing swords? If you practice again, you will become ***T. Didn't you hear what I said? It's going to rain. Our broken ship doesn't even have a cabin, hey. Nami frantically roared at the two who were practicing sword. Advertisement Chapter 15. It's raining well. Open black lens bracket. Ask for flowers. Close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Luffy spread his hands helplessly. Even if you say that, it's impossible for us to create a boat for you. And aren't we looking for a ship now? Nami sighed helplessly. The Zailuobu village you mentioned really has a boat for us to go to sea. Luffy gave a thumbs up. Absolutely no problem. That ship has the potential to give birth to ship spirits. Ship elf. Nami was taken aback. You are still a child, so being sensible is just a legend. Luffy smiled and didn't say a word. Watching anime at the time, she had earned enough tears before the Mary was burned. But this time, they didn't go directly to find Buggy, but turned their heads and drove towards Sarab village where Yosaku was located. However, the weather was not good, and a large cloud was drifting towards the boat of the few people. Soon it began to rain cats and dogs. It's all your fault, you two bastards, it made people's clothes wet. Nami put an empty wine barrel on top of his head, barely blocking the rain from the sky. And Luffy and Zoro really turned into drowned chickens directly. That is to say, Zoro, you don't know how to bring an umbrella when you go out. Luffy nodded confidently, then wiped his bleeding nose and looked away from Nami. Rain is awesome. Zoro. B**********D. What's in the way? You didn't bring it yourself. Is this a question of whether to bring an umbrella or not? You two idiots. Nami felt like she was going crazy right now. Suddenly, Luffy pointed to the distant sea. Look, there's a boat. Several people looked around, and a pirate ship with a black cat-style pirate flag came into their eyes. Haha, there is no unparalleled road. Luffy stood up abruptly. I saw him turn his hands around suddenly, and his arms were tightly wrapped in circles like hemp rope. Advertisement. Rubber. Propellers. Luffy placed his arms behind the boat, and his hands spun like propellers at high speed. Ask for a sack of beans. Nami didn't react and staggered into Luffy's arms. Zoro was thrown directly by the fast-moving boat. Hole Luffy. Zoro's scolding was faintly visible in the undulating sea. Hurry up, let's take the boat down first. Luffy yelled at Zoro, who fell into the sea. Zoro. Me. At %#. At this time, on the Black Cat pirate ship, two pirates in charge of looking out stood in the heavy rain with their bamboo hats on and complained bitterly. With this kind of weather, how could there be any enemy attacks? That is to say, if we insist on going out to watch, they are all drinking comfortably in the cabin. Hey, it's really rare that the old captain took the initiative to contact us this time. I heard that he went to work as a housekeeper for a rich merchant. Hey, to put it bluntly, I still covet those properties. This time I contacted us to kill the heir. As expected of Beiji Keluo, you can really bear it. That is to say, ha. The two were squatting on the plywood to hide from the rain, when suddenly a scream came from below. Go. The next second a long arm grabbed the mast, and Nami and Luffy jumped up under the bewildered eyes of the two pirates. There are two more young men. Luffy took a look at the two pirates and kicked them up. The two unlucky kids were kicked out before they realized what was going on. Boom. Nami punched Luffy on the head. Advertisement. Damn. Can you tell me in advance next time? Do you want to throw me to death? Looking at Nami, whose chest was heaving in shock, Luffy touched his head, which didn't hurt at all, as well as the feeling on his body, and said with a smile, I'll definitely do it next time. Then I added a sentence in my heart. No wonder. Next, Luffy directly led Nami into the cabin. At this time, the Black Cat pirates are holding a banquet in the cabin. Men keep to the left. Women keep to the right. Rob now. Luffy let out a loud cry. Nami, you are Marine, B*****************. D. Luffy also realized that he seemed to have used the wrong word, and then coughed twice. Ahem, I made a mistake, and I'm the Colonel Luffy of Naval Headquarters. If you don't want to die, surrender. The pirates in the cabin were shocked at first, and several pirates even raised their hands directly. Why is the Colonel of Naval Headquarters coming to encircle and suppress his little East Blue pirate group? It's over this time. However, after waiting for a long time, they found that there was no Marine rushing in from outside the cabin except Luffy and Nami. Zangao, wearing heart-shaped glasses, stood out from the crowd and asked cautiously, just the two of you? Luffy frowned. Of course not. Zangao was startled. It's over, it must be cold this time, the big troops are outside, this is coming in to negotiate. There's a swimmer under the boat. Luffy pointed to the outside and said. Zangao, brothers, shoulder to shoulder, all the pirates rushed towards Luffy and the two of them. Luffy smiled evilly, pulled out the broken sword and waved it casually. For a while, the sound of thumping and thumping spread throughout the cabin. 100% received empty-handed and white knife group version. P.S. Has anyone seen this? If so, I will add 3 more chapters. Advertisement Chapter 16 Luffy with bad personality. Advertisement. ****** Luffy, I'm not done with you. Zoro climbed up from the sea wet all over. Just rushed into the cabin but saw many pirates of the Black Cat pirates kneeling on the ground. Zoro asked Luffy in bewilderment, your sword intent is still group. Luffy said earnestly and sincerely, I am cooperating with the group killing effect caused by Conqueror's Haki, which is the ultimate talent that not 1 in a million people may have. Conqueror's Haki. Zoro looked at Luffy suspiciously. Of course, why do you think they all knelt down on their own initiative? Luffy said as a matter of course. The gang of pirates kneeling below were about to cry. Master Colonel Marine, can you stop chatting? My knees are swollen and I ask for it. They had never seen such a weird move before. With a wave of the sword, everyone knelt on the spot in unison. During this period, no matter what moves he used, he couldn't stand up. Only after Luffy retracts his sword can he continue the activity. Several cadres didn't believe in evil, and wanted to violently kill people while Luffy was withdrawing his sword, but Luffy directly knelt 5 times in a row, causing their knees to be tortured. At this time, the pirates curled up in the corner like little daughters-in-law, watching Luffy and the others enjoy themselves. Gouda, ha, it's really lucky to meet a pirate group at this time. Zoro drank a large glass of wine and sighed comfortably. Do you think it's a coincidence? Luffy looked at the group of pirates with a sneer, they are all planning to go to Sarab village as well. Really? Then they are really unlucky, haha. Advertisement. Zoro looked at the group of pirates and laughed. Nami on the side stared at the group of pirates with resentment. The boss of this group of guys lived in seclusion in Zailuobu village, and this time they were asked to go back to prepare to embezzle the property of a girl named Kaya. And they said that even her parents were killed by this group of pirates, they are simply not human. Nami stared viciously at the pirates of the Black Cat pirates, wishing they could slaughter the scum immediately. Don't worry, our ship happens to be at that Kaya's house, and when the time comes, it will be sent to impel down together with his boss. Then they will feel that sometimes death may be a kind of happiness. Luffy looked at the words of the pirates with a smile, making them shudder. Master Marine, I beg you to let us go, we are old and young, we are all a group of poor people. That's right, we are all good citizens who were forced by Kailuo. All the pirates trembled with fright and begged for mercy loudly. Luffy sneered. What did you do? Pirates in One Piece world are different from Zon Luan, only those greedy people who covet treasure will walk the way of pirates. It may be too much to say that catching one and killing another, but among all the pirates, there are only a handful of pirates who are really adventurers. Perhaps in the entire pirate world, only Roger's pirate group can be called an adventure group. Only his pirate group has only one pirate ship, and embarks on an adventure with the goal of finding Ralph Rudd. The other pirate groups are all for power, wealth, and fame. So for this group of pirates, Luffy can't have the slightest soft heart. Just like the original Monkey D. Luffy said, since he is on the road of becoming the One Piece, it doesn't matter even if he sacrifices his life and dies at sea. In terms of awareness, Luffy is much better than these scumbags, at least he won't regret it. Damn it, since you won't give us a way out, then even if we die, I will bite off a piece of your flesh. Seeing that Luffy didn't show any sympathy, the Catman brothers stretched out their sharp claws and rushed towards them. Ah, advertisement. Nami screamed in horror. Luffy calmly ate the barbecue in his hand without being moved at all. Ding. There was a crisp metal clanging sound. The Catman's claws landed an inch from Luffy's forehead. Good job. Luffy took a bite of the ham and praised. I saw Zoro holding 2 knives firmly in front of Luffy. Don't shoot at our chief casually, otherwise it will appear that I am a bit redundant. Zoro looked at the Catman brothers and said lightly, 2 swords style 2 cuts. I saw Zoro put the double swords horizontally in front of his chest, and made a high-speed continuous slash. Immediately, the Catman brothers' chest was cut with countless huge incisions, blood spilled all over the ground. Luffy looked at the trembling pirates with a smile and said, if you don't want to go to Impel Down, I don't mind sending you to hell right now, maybe the life there is much better than Impel Down. The seemingly innocent eyes and light voice make many pirates shudder. They didn't doubt the truth of what the guy in the cloak of justice said before them. The atmosphere in the cabin was extremely dignified. Suddenly, Luffy burst into laughter. Ha ha. Look at Zoro. Look at these cowards. I'm just joking. Ha ha ha. Nami breathed a sigh of relief and muttered. You don't seem to be joking. Your character is really bad. Zoro didn't care and continued to drink from his glass. Luffy waved his hand and told the 2 pirates to wash the floor. The heavy rain comes and goes quickly. When dawn arrived, the shadow of the island where Zailuobu village was located appeared above the sea level. Advertisement Chapter 17 I'm here to catch a thief. Advertisement. The pirates are coming. The pirates are coming. On the streets of Zailuobu village, a long-nosed boy in overalls was walking in the alleys while shouting. A villager came out with a rolling pin and a frying pan and shouted loudly. Damn Usopp. So annoying early in the morning. Go away. Don't let people sleep early in the morning. Don't let me catch you. I'm going to beat you up. The boy laughed and ran to the villa on the top of the mountain while chasing him. I saw Usopp move away a piece of green plant fence with ease and climbed on top of a big tree. He took out a few stones from his pocket and banged on the window. After a while, a sickly girl in pajamas and a coat opened the window. Usopp, what adventure stories are you telling me today? Today I'm going to tell you the story of the giant goldfish. Under the sunlight, the silhouettes of the 2 looked extraordinarily innocent. But at the main entrance of the villa, 3 uninvited guests rang the doorbell. Hi, may I ask who you are? The sheephead housekeeper, Meili, looked at the 3 of Luffy with doubts. Colonel Monkey D. Luffy, Naval Headquarters, come here for your steward Klabalt. Luffy smiled and stretched out his hand to Meili. The ship he will sail in the future is named after the sheep-headed butler in front of him. Ah, Butler Krabart, sir, please come in and have a few cups of tea. The butler has gone to the market to buy vegetables. Meili hurriedly led the 3 of them in. I didn't expect Steward Krabart to have a friend like Chief Marine. Only good people like Steward Krabart have friends like you, right? Meili smiled and complimented Luffy and the others. Advertisement. Yes, I think he will be very surprised to see us. Luffy smiled and followed Meili to the living room. Are you sure there is the ship we want here? Nami asked Luffy suspiciously. It is really that the location of Zailuobu village is too remote, and it can even be said to be a remote village. This is why Usopp has been calling the pirates all day long, and the pirates have not come for so many years. Without him, poor. Of course, otherwise, do you think Beiji Keluo, who is worth 16 million pele, would bend over to take care of others for 3 years to get this inheritance? Luffy took a sip of tea lightly and said, this black tea is not bad, can I have some later? Meili, you are really welcome. And just an hour ago. At this time, Kuro was in a very unhappy mood. The Black Cat pirates, who had originally agreed to gather in the back mountain, did not arrive on time at this time. Kuro pushed his glasses with the palm of his hand with a dark face. This group of damned pirates, if they destroy my plan, I will definitely not spare them. No, I didn't intend to let them leave alive. Only the dead will not leak the secret. Kuro sneered and pushed his glasses again. And on his way back to the villa, Usopp's embarrassed figure who was being chased appeared in front of him. Kuro glanced at Usopp in disgust, and cursed in a low voice. You be asterisk 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 D of a pirate. Then he looked at the villagers as if changing his face again. Everyone is so energetic early in the morning. The villagers saw that Kuro stopped in a hurry. Ah, Butler Krabart. Come out to buy food again. What a good man. The last time the child fell down was the wound he helped to deal with. ... The villagers greeted Kuro one after another. Advertisement. Only Usopp made a face at Chloe, the guy who stood in the way every time he met Kaya. Kuro watched as Usopp ran towards the hill with a gloomy look on his face, and he would not allow any changes to prevent him from inheriting Kaya's property. Immediately after he greeted the villagers, he hurried up the mountain. In the villa. Luffy put down the teacup in his hand. What's wrong? Nami asked from the side. There was a sudden commotion outside the door. Usopp laughed and walked past the door, followed by a group of bodyguards. Catch him quickly, you damn brat, he comes to harass our young lady every time. The bodyguards swarmed up after hearing the words, and Usopp yelled and slipped through the cracks but couldn't be caught. A hint of impatience flashed across Kuro's face, and he casually picked up a short gun from the bodyguard's waist and shot it at Usopp. Don't want. Kaya's excited voice came from behind the 3 of Luffy. At this time, Kuro also noticed 3 uninvited guests standing at the entrance of the hall watching the theater. Marine. Kuro's pupils shrank, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. Why is there a Marine in the villa? He hurriedly threw away the gun, and pretended to be concerned and said to Kaya, I'm really sorry, miss, your body can't be excited, and he also tells you lies every day, which makes you emotionally unstable. I really can't help it. Usopp on the opposite side retorted loudly. You fart, Kaya is not sick, it is obvious that you keep her in the room to be weak. At this time, Usopp already had a keen perception far beyond that of ordinary people. The black gun that Kuro fired just now failed to hit Usopp in the crowd. Kuro turned to Luffy and asked politely, I don't know what your lord is doing here. Luffy grinned, and took out a reward order in front of Kuro, catch the thief. Advertisement Chapter 18 I just like your stubborn little expression open black lens bracket flowers close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Kuro's pupils shrank, and his mind was shocked. The reward order in Luffy's hand is obviously the reward order belonging to the Black Cat Pirates Baiji Kuro 3 years ago. Sir, you are joking, why do we have pirates here? Kaya, who was behind her, said without knowing why. On the other hand, Usopp rubbed his eyes wide-eyed. Kaya, why do I feel that the reward in Marine's hand is similar to that of Butler Clabattle? Usopp yelled urgently. Kaya frowned when she heard this. Usopp, you are this kind of person. I know you hate Butler Battelle, but how can you slander him like this? Not me. Usopp was spoken incoherently. Kuro struck while the iron was hot and smiled at Luffy. Sir, I don't understand what you mean, didn't Baiji Kuro died 3 years ago? Oh, Luffy replied with a smile. When we were in Shield's town, we found that Colonel Monka seemed to have been hypnosis-ed, and Kuro's death 3 years ago was just a cover. I would like to offer a reward of 16,100,000 grams. Luo doesn't seem to be dead yet, it seems that he is pretending to be dead and undercover in a wealthy businessman to seize the property. The more Kuro listened, the more ugly his face became. He didn't know why Luffy knew so much about his plan. But what he can be sure of is that his identity must have been exposed. Now only Kaya doesn't understand, so she doesn't know what Luffy means. A stern look flashed on K. Luo's face, and then he smiled gently. I see, but we really don't have any tricks here. Luffy stared at Kuro with a chuckle and said, really? How do I think that Kuro's reward order looks a bit like you? Chloe was unmoved. There are a lot of people who look alike, and you can see how vicious the guy on the reward order is, he doesn't look like me at all. Luffy spread his hands. In this case, then go to the Butler Crabatel and let us go to the Marine base to verify your identity. If you are not Kuro, we will release you back. At this moment, even Kaya felt something was wrong in the tone of the confrontation between the two sides. She hurriedly opened her mouth to Luffy to defend Kuro. Battle can't be a pirate, he's obviously so kind. Advertisement. Kuro also looked at Luffy with contempt. I am Kuro, do you have evidence? Can you Marine frame a kind civilian at will? Yes. Luffy spread her hands innocently. One sentence made Kuro so angry that he almost made a move. Luffy smiled and said to Kuro, I just doubt you, what can you do? We are Marine, and it is your duty as a civilian to cooperate with our Marine investigation. The veins on Kuro's forehead were exposed, and he almost lost his breath. Zoro and Nami on the side laughed wildly. Luffy is clearly disgusting Kuro. If he really wants evidence, the evidence of the Black Cat Pirates ship is all parked at the pier. Kuro stared at Luffy with a dark face and said, I won't go with you without evidence, and if you have the guts, you'll kill me. By then, I think Marine's random killings will spread all over the sea soon. Luffy sighed. As expected of Baiji Keluo, I just like your stubborn little expression. And at this moment, suddenly, the shouts of several children came from outside the door. Captain Usopp. Not good. There's a pirate ship parked in East Blue Bay. It's a real pirate ship, with the Black Cat pirate flag. The three onion heads yelled and ran from below in a panic. Kuro, who was still a little calm at first, suddenly changed his face. These idiots. Was discovered at this time. He looked at Luffy suddenly, only to see Luffy answering slowly. Oh, I accidentally caught a group of pirates on the way here, so I brought them here along the way. You're kidding me. Kuro suddenly showed a furious expression on his face. Hey, hurry up, you can't concentrate. Luffy laughed out loud. Advertisement. Kuro looked around gloomily. Is there no need to act anymore? Everyone came to hinder me. 3 years is really a long time. Kuro opened his mouth slowly and looked at Luffy and the others viciously. What are you talking about, Butler Battle? Kaya looked at her original amiable housekeeper with such an expression in disbelief. Kuro stepped lightly on both feet, and the whole person moved quickly like a ghost. Zoro looked at Kuro in surprise, disappeared. Kabatel, are you really a pirate? Impossible. Kaya cried out in disbelief with tears in her eyes. In order to pursue peace of mind, I spent 3 years gaining the trust of the villagers. What a pleasant and comfortable feeling it was. Right now, just when I'm about to have this peace of mind forever, you bastards appear. You have ruined my perfect plan. As Captain Kuro, I have to smile at a little girl with a snotty nose, and try to please you with duplicity. Can you understand this period of humiliation? Can you understand the feelings of me who was once called Captain Kuro? Kuro yelled loudly while moving at high speed. Everyone in the villa listened to Keluo's shameless declaration in shock. Kaya was crying badly at this time. Nami and Usopp gritted their teeth even more. Even Zoro frowned at this vicious pirate. When Kuro stopped, 2 cat claw gloves with long knives appeared on his hands. Then he glared at the crowd fiercely and said, since the plan is unsuccessful, as long as you all die here, you can still continue to pursue my peace of mind. P.S. Has anyone watched it? Advertisement Chapter 19 Second Gear. Advertisement. Kuro. Then there was an angry roar. Usopp pulled out the bodyguard's firecracker and shot at Kuro. All of a sudden Kaya was frightened and screamed. On the other hand, Kuro sneered, stepping on both feet to avoid the bullet in an instant. And he himself appears directly behind Usopp. Having said that, after all these years, if it weren't for you, Kaya should have died earlier. Kuro sneered and put the espada on Usopp's neck. Usopp was so frightened that his legs trembled uncontrollably. Hello, hello. Luffy put away his legs and stood up from the sofa. Are you thinking that this marine doesn't exist? Kuro looked at Luffy with a sneer. You're just a kid, although I don't know where you got the marine uniform, but no matter how you look at it, you are not a qualified marine. Really? Luffy had a huge smile on his face, not annoyed at all. What do you think marine should be like? Luffy flicked his arm to the right casually, and his right hand was like a booster pump. In an instant, Luffy's body became red and white steam came out. You were really lucky. It was developed with great difficulty recently. You were the first unlucky child to experience the power of second gear. HMPH. What? First gear and second gear, under my silent steps, you all have a fate waiting to be killed. Then Kuro kicked Usopp away and rushed towards Luffy with strange steps. Zoro on the side immediately clenched the knife in his hand, ready to block in front of Luffy. Luffy waved his hand. I want to try out a new move, I'm missing a target. TCH. Zoro reluctantly put away the knife in his hand. How dare you underestimate me? Go to hell. Kuro's voice wandered around, and the 10 blades in both hands suddenly appeared behind Luffy, slashing straight at Luffy. Careful. Usopp got up and exclaimed instantly when he saw this scene. With super perception ability, he could barely see Kuro's movements clearly. Late. Kuro laughed. Advertisement. The espada in his hand has come to the top of Luffy's head. A contemptuous smile appeared on Luffy's face. Kuro felt his eyes dazzle, and espada had already swiped past Luffy's side. What? Kuro looked at the empty blade he cut in surprise, cut crooked. Wrong. A bad premonition rose in Kuro's heart, and then he swiped at Luffy again. However, Luffy dodged it lightly again. I do not believe. Kuro yelled angrily, but suddenly he felt a sharp pain on his face. Then it flew backwards in an instant and hit a big hole in the wall. Idiot, with your speed, there is no difference between you and bastards in front of observation hockey. Luffy looked at Kuro with contempt and complained. Observation hockey? What's that? Zoro asked in surprise. With the blessing of the super perception and super reaction of the first template Poseidon, Luffy has mastered observation hockey in advance. Even the initial level, among the weakest East Blue, is like cheating. Hitting Luffy with Kuro's strength is just a dream. But Kuro didn't think so at all. I saw him get up angrily, with blood streaming from his forehead, he was like a lunatic, and roared at Luffy, I am the man who destroyed an entire marine fleet alone. As long as you are all dead, my plan can continue. I saw Kuro bend over and stood up, swaying like a drunk. I want to let you know how terrifying a pirate who has been in and out of the Ghost Gate several times is. While speaking, Kuro's figure suddenly disappeared. Zoro on the side looked in the direction of Kuro in shock. You must know that Kuro's speed at this time is already comparable to Shaved in Marine 6 styles. At the current speed of Zoro, it can't reach that level. Spoon. Kuro yelled. Advertisement. At the same time, cracks in the shape of 5 fingers appeared in the villa. This is an indiscriminate attack by me using silent steps. It's so fast that even I myself don't know what I've hit. In the past, I don't know how many lovely subordinates died under this trick of mine, but now you are all shredded into pieces under my ultimate mystery. Ha ha ha. Kaya's bodyguard and others curled up in the corner in horror. Usopp desperately ran to Kaya and held her in his arms. How could there be such a move? Nami's eyes widened, but he couldn't find Chloe at all. Zoro lowered his head, not knowing what he was thinking. Only a series of knife marks suddenly appeared around the villa. Die. Kuro yelled. Luffy. Nami was terrified. MDZZ. Luffy turned sideways to dodge another slash. Didn't I say that your speed? Too slow. Second gear. Jet pistol. Nani. Kuro only felt his eyes go dark, and his whole head smashed hard into the floor of the villa in an instant. Boom. A huge deep pit shattered the entire villa. Kuro, spitting out blood, raised his head with difficulty and said intermittently unwillingly, my plan is, it is absolutely impossible to fail. Bang. Luffy kicked Chloe's head into the floor again. He turned his head to face the crowd with a serious expression. What's wrong? Nami looked at Luffy with a dignified expression, swallowed and asked. The villa is going to collapse. Everyone. FK. Run. Advertisement chapter 20. You should be polite to me. Advertisement. Fool. Nami punched Luffy's rubber head. You destroyed the villa like this, how can we ask someone for a boat? Zoro. As the point here. Hey. Everyone looked at the ruined villa and looked at each other in blank dismay. Luffy spread his hands innocently. A new move, I didn't expect it to be so powerful. You must know that Luffy in the second gear can already fight with ordinary members of CP9, and a country house like this is as brittle as paper under the power of Luffy's second gear. Kaya stepped forward with the support of the sheep steward Meili. It's okay, we can just ask the villagers to build another one. Look, this is called atmosphere. Great sister, you brought people's houses down. Didn't I also prevent a human tragedy? It's normal to sacrifice a little bit. Usopp looked at the spanking Luffy and others with envy in their eyes. He glanced at Kaya, who was out of danger, turned and ran towards his house. Zoro and others glanced at him without paying attention. Luffy flipped Kuro out of the ruins and threw it on the ground. Nami looked at Luffy with disgust and said, why are you saving him? Nami's distaste for pirates has never changed. In the original book, Luffy just drove Kuro away. The pirate who killed an unknown number of marines is still wandering in East Blue. At this time, Luffy naturally wouldn't let this guy go, and the 2 consecutive heavy blows had already made Kuro vent more and breathe less. What do you know? Is this a pirate? This is 16 million walking. Speaking of which, Luffy took out a mini video phone bug from his arms, which was borrowed from the Marine base in Shields Town. Marine is still offering a bounty for catching pirates. Advertisement. Nami asked Luffy in surprise. I have an official position, but Zoro doesn't have one, so stupid, you must know how to be flexible. That's right. Nami's eyes instantly turned into Bailey's look, why didn't I think of that? Said Nami directly snatched Luffy's phone bug. Get out of the way, I'll do it, I'll take a clearer picture, save the Marine who won't admit it. Luffy twitched his lips when he saw Nami who didn't dislike him at all. Sure enough, Nami's dream was first, Bailey second, and the captain wanted to go to the back row. Let's go to the town to have some food first, and wait for Joey to lead us. Joey's. Didn't he go back to Marine headquarters? Oh, I was called here temporarily to escort the Black Cat pirates. We can't lead a group of prisoners to run around, can we? Poor Joey's. Under the surprised gazes of Kaya and Meili, the 3 of Luffy walked down the mountain in silence while chatting. Walking has been changed to a trot. It seems to be worried that Kaya will ask them to compensate for the money for building the villa. What are you running for? If you run, I will follow. The 3 came to a tavern in a row. Did Kaya hear our cryptic request? You don't look like a Marine like this, and you're not afraid that your grandpa will come and catch you. What are you afraid of? We really can't wait until Zoro gets 16 million in exchange for us to repay her. No, that 16 million is mine. Nami held the video phone bug in her arms like a kitten protecting food. Advertisement. The corners of Luffy and Zoro's mouths twitched as they watched. Shouldn't it be time to visit your hometown after you get the boat? Luffy smiled and said to Nami, I promised the old man to get rid of the Murloc who caused the trouble. Murloc, a monster with a fish head and a human body. Zoro asked curiously from the side. Instead, Nami fell silent, and finally said with a forced smile, I heard that there is a good sea restaurant nearby, let's go have a meal first. And didn't we get the charts of the Grand Line? Don't worry about the sea charts. The East-West Blue Army has as many as you want. Later, I will ask the old man to send you a batch of sea charts for 8 routes. Luffy tapped the table and laughed. Oh, then let's go to the restaurant on the sea first. Nami quickly changed the subject. Luffy took a deep look at Nami and didn't say any more. Well, since our navigator is willing, let's try it. Nami forced a laugh upon hearing this. At this time, Kaya and butler Meili walked into the restaurant. Finally found you. Kaya greeted Luffy with a smile. You look good, Luffy nodded, what can you do with us? Kaya smiled and said to everyone. This time Krabart. The matter of Crow has caused you a lot of trouble. This time I am here mainly to thank you. By the way, I must accept it. Luffy stretched out his thumb directly. Then I'll be impolite. Nami, Zoro, you have to be polite to me. Kaya covered her mouth and laughed. Advertisement Chapter 21 Quite a pirate. You are afraid you are courting death. Advertisement. Wait until Luffy comes to the beach. A light sailboat with a sheep's head prow caught the eyes of several people. Golden Mary earned Luffy's tears when the capital of the Seven Waters was burned. At this time, the Meili was lying on the water surface intact, quietly waiting for the arrival of its owner. Amazing. Nami looked at the Mary with bright eyes. She had had enough of Luffy and Zoro, 2 big boys, drifting with the current in a small broken ship all day long. She couldn't imagine how the 2 of them sailed in the windy sea in a small sailboat with a square meter of 3 meters. All the things that will be used in the voyage have been packed in for you. Kaya on the side smiled and said to Luffy. That's so embarrassing. Luffy looked around the Mary with satisfaction. Zoro, Nami, I'm sorry we didn't see you, hello. However, at this moment, Usopp rolled down the slope with a huge backpack on his back. Help me stop. Usopp yelled like a spinning top and rushed towards the Mary. Usopp. Kaya covered her mouth in surprise. What is that guy doing? Hurry up and stop him, he will hit our boat. Nami said nervously. Yaoshi. Luffy and Zoro kicked Usopp in the face decisively. The ball-like Usopp froze in place. Thank you very much. Usopp grunted on the face at his feet. What are you here for, boy? Zoro looked at Usopp with a look of surprise. He had also seen this guy in Kaya's villa before, desperate to protect Kaya, and he had a good impression of him. HMPH. Of course I went to see. Usopp raised his head and said loudly. Advertisement. Are you really going to see too, Usopp? Kaya looked at Usopp sadly. Let's go before my resolution wavers. Usopp looked at the sea and said, don't stop me. Kaya was a little sad but still said, I won't stop you, because I already had a hunch. Next time I return to the village, I will definitely tell you an adventure that is even more incredible than the stories I made up. Usopp said solemnly. By the way, how do you plan to go to sea? Zoro interjected from the sidelines. Usopp hesitantly glanced at a few people. Seeing that they didn't say anything, he quickly raised his head and said loudly, I am the leader of the Usopp pirates. We will definitely meet again at sea in the future. Shoot inside the temple. Luffy and Zoro appeared beside Usopp in an instant, one left and one right. Luffy strangles Usopp's neck. Zoro's knife rests in front of Usopp's neck. Luffy nodded in satisfaction and said, very well, I announce that you are under arrest. Usopp yelled in bewilderment. No, what's the situation? What do you mean, you guys? Nami looked at Usopp like an idiot and said, you said in front of a naval headquarters colonel and a pirate hunter that you want to be a pirate, are you courting death or what? Usopp, in order to prevent you from endangering civilians, I'd better take your head to collect the bounty in advance. Zoro said sullenly. Hey, don't fight and kill, let's send him to impel down with the Black Cat pirates to experience what hell looks like. Luffy is also adding oil and vinegar. Usopp was so frightened that his legs trembled crazily. Woo, I'm not a pirate anymore. I'm not a pirate anymore. I was wrong. Luffy and Zoro laughed. Then you still want to go to sea? Usopp glanced at Kaya, remembering his own incompetence in the villa. He still nodded firmly. I must go to sea, I want to be a brave sea warrior to protect Kaya. Kaya blushed when she heard this. Luffy took a sip. Damn, you actually sprinkled dog food, bah. Zoro pointed to the ship. Our warship still needs a handyman, are you interested? Ah, advertisement. Usopp was stunned when he heard the words, he never thought that Zoro and others would take the initiative to invite him, a weak chicken. Because in his opinion, Luffy's strength is too terrifying, such a strong crow has no power to resist in Luffy's hands. You must know that Luffy in the original book also used all his strength to beat Crow by exchanging injuries for his life. At this time, Luffy is simply crushing Crow. Give you an internship opportunity. Luffy jumped on the bow and smiled at Usopp, it's like paying Kaya's fare. Usopp's eyes were red, he jumped up and shouted excitedly, I'm going to be the captain. Luffy smacks Usopp's head with a rubber fist. Idiot, we're Marine. Where's the captain? Ha ha ha, everyone laughed, but at this moment, there was a sound of a whistle on the sea. A Marine warship slowly approached from a distance. Yo, here comes the sweeper. Luffy put his hands over his eyes and looked. Soon the warship approached, and Joey got off the warship with a face of helplessness. Master Luffy, what kind of expression do you have? Isn't it just to let you escort a group of pirates along the way? Luffy looked at Joey's in distaste. No problem, I'm here. Fourth Master Chow hurriedly said. Usopp's eyes lit up as he watched the gigantic warship. Why does Luffy need Kaya's ship without a warship? Usopp whispered to Zoro. Zoro touched his chin. Maybe it's because he belongs to the informal establishment. Joey's escorted all the pirates of the Black Cat pirates away, and brought Luffy a bounty of 16 million Baileys of hundreds of crows. Master Luffy, your military achievements will be lost in this way. Joey looked puzzled at Luffy who wanted money but not military merit. What do you do with this little military merit? When I get to the Grand Line, I'll have plenty of money, bah. Military merit, you go. Luffy waved his hand impatiently, he is Commodore, the military exploits of this little pirate are useful. On the contrary, Arlong's identities of the Sun Pirates and Murlocs may also consider whether to exchange them for bounties. Advertisement Chapter 22. A few more shots. I want to brush experience. Advertisement. The sea was blue and the sky was blue, and a few seagulls were circling over the Mary. Luffy is sitting cross-legged on the sheep's head and meditating. This is an unknown cultivation method that fits Lee Jing's unparalleled swordsmanship. It helps to improve the performance level of Lee Jing's template. Below, Zoro is working on his arms with a 1-ton barbell. Nami is now in the control room controlling the direction. Usopp folded his arms and held a mop on the deck looking into the distance. Suddenly he waved his hand forward. Stupid pirates. You know that this Going Merry is the invincible fleet of Captain Usopp, but you still dare to attack it. Someone from Yalu. Go. Fight. Usopp yelled and flung the mop around. Is this an idiot? Zoro yawned as he watched Zhang Er's Usopp, who was in a fit of illness. Are you sure it would do us good to have him on board? Nami also stuck his head out of the cabin. Luffy opened his eyes and stretched his waist. You don't understand, Shunfeng cooks against the wind, and the desperate situation depends on the shooter. Huh, Zoro looked puzzled and didn't know what Luffy was talking about. Hey, I said you guys, pay more attention to others, shall we? Usopp looked at the few people who lacked interest, we are going out to sea for adventure. However, except for Luffy, the three of them don't know how long they have been floating at sea, especially Nami, who started to go to sea by himself 8 years ago, so naturally he is not as excited as when he first went to sea. Shouldn't we draw a flag or something? How can we go on a sea adventure without a flag? Usopp looked awkwardly at the empty mast. Ah, we are making up a marine. We need to hang a few marine flags when we pass by marine base some other day. Luffy yawned, he was really not interested in the so-called pirate flag spirit of pirates. Why, the marine flags are all in the same style. Usopp said helplessly. Advertisement. Anyway, those regular marines don't recognize our ships as warships, do they? Zoro said comfortably while lying on the deck with the sea breeze blowing. Why? Usopp asked puzzled. Probably because Luffy got into marine by going through the back door. Nami came out with a copy of the chart and continued casually. Usopp was stunned, are you making it up as agreed? Luffy smiled and said to Usopp, I made it up myself. At present, you are temporary workers, the kind who are responsible for topping the bag in case of an accident, Usopp. Joe. Sailing for almost half a day. The bored Usopp was wandering around the Mary. After a while, he came out of the cabin carrying a box with a danger printed on it. What? Luffy leaned over curiously, he didn't know what Kaya had put in the cabin at that time. Usopp shook his head. I haven't opened it yet, I want to take it out and have a look. The two pried open the box and found that it contained shells for launching. Sharp. Usopp stared at the crate full of shells. And this thing. I remember when the Alvita pirates fired shells when I rescued Nami. Usopp looked around quickly, and soon saw a reef to the south that looked like a target. Come on, let's hit a few shots. Usopp stuffed himself into the cannon with the shell in his arms. Seems like fun. Luffy touched his chin. Zoro, lend me a knife. Huh, you can't borrow knives. Zoro, who was sleeping, resolutely refused to Luffy. Advertisement. Don't you want to learn my peerless swordsmanship? Luffy laughed from the side. With a swish, a knife was stabbed straight in front of Usopp's body. Usopp growled loudly. Hey, Zoro, you almost cut my DK. Luffy pulled out the knife casually and looked at it. Che, Hidao is even reluctant to use it. Shut up, love it or not, Zoro yelled frantically. Come on, Usopp, give it a try. Luffy motioned to Usopp. Hey, when I was 3 years old, I flew around the world on a cannonball. Usopp, who was in contact with the real guy for the first time, stuffed the cannonball into the cannon excitedly. People call me, Cannon Usopp. I'm not lying to you. Luffy took the knife and waved it casually. It's obviously a knife, why do you have to say it's a swordsman, a snake spirit? Usopp. Hey, can you respect me and listen to what people say, hey? Boom. With a roar, the shell exploded not far from the reef, causing a splash of water. This power doesn't look very good. Luffy shook his head in disgust. That's why you can't shoot right. Look at me. Usopp moved closer to the cannon, aiming carefully for a moment. Yushi. Launch. Boom. The shells rushed straight towards the reef. Seeing that the shell was about to hit the target. Suddenly, a burst of sword energy split the cannonball in two. Ah, Usopp looked back at Luffy who was posing in bewilderment. It actually increased the reduction rate by 0.1%. Usopp, hurry up and shoot more. I want to gain experience. Luffy yelled at Usopp who stayed where he was. Advertisement Chapter 23 Conditions for Reduction Rate Growth. Advertisement. Oh, awesome. I hit it again. Really. Look at my swordsmanship. 1 slash. The wind and the clouds. Zoro looked at Luffy excitedly. At this time, Luffy held a long knife and used the shells as flying saucers to play a target game. Usopp, on the other hand, practiced dodging Luffy's slashes with his cannon and fired at the distant reef from all angles. I have to say that Usopp's sniper talent is really ridiculously strong. Even though he had never touched a cannon before, under his aim, the shells flew towards the reef with a hit rate of almost 100%. It's a pity that the unparalleled swordsmanship attached to Luffy's Lee Jing template is outrageous. As long as it is a target that has no hands to catch the blade, Luffy can easily smash it to pieces. For a moment the shells flew. It was chopped up over the reef and fell to the surroundings, setting off waves of waves. Oh, Luffy, you are so strong. Usopp looked at the shattered cannonball in shock, although it was of little use in the later stage. But in East Blue, the cannon is still the main means of attack for pirates and marines. That alone is enough for Luffy to run the East Blue. Hey, they are all useless, hurry up and shoot more. Luffy was overjoyed seeing the soaring reduction rate on the system. Although it was only 0.1%, it was quite fast for Luffy's usual delivery. At this time, the restoration degree of Lee Jing's template has reached 55.7%. You must know that the original Poseidon template only increased to 10% after a week of training. Luffy suspects that one of the important factors for the soaring restoration rate is the gap between the physical fitness and the original anime characters, and the other is the gap between the proficiency of the attached weapons and skills in the original anime characters. In other words, as long as Luffy exceeds the peak physical fitness of the template and masters the template skills proficiently, he can increase the reduction rate to 100%. And Luffy can obviously find that when he loads the template, his cultivation is not restricted by this world. Advertisement. In other words, Luffy at this time is equivalent to practicing swordsmanship and kung fu with Lee Jing's aptitude. If one day I can randomly get Saitama's template, that means Luffy can practice for 7 days with Saitama's talent. Don't underestimate the mere 7 days. The author once said that Saitama's combat power is about the same as that of Super Saiyan 2, and it only took 3 years for Saitama to cultivate to this point. And he just did some simple physical training, and didn't practice as hard as other heroes. Therefore, every time the template is changed, it will have a different bonus to Luffy's strength. However, when Luffy and Usopp were working hard, the sharp-eyed Zoro was surprised to see a white flag fluttering on the top of the reef. Zoro pointed to the reef and asked Luffy, is there a white flag there? Have it. Luffy and Usopp stopped what they were doing. Usopp also took out a spotting telescope and looked over. Ah, there really are. Usopp exclaimed loudly. Luffy said triumphantly, how is it? Fortunately, I blocked the handle of your cannonball, otherwise they wouldn't even have a chance to raise the white flag. Go, lean over and have a look. With a wave of Luffy's hand, the Mary sailed slowly towards the reef. Just when he was about to bypass the reef, a tattooed young man with short hair and sunglasses attacked directly with a machete. Too much deceit. If you want to kill, you keep blowing to the side, why are you scaring us? The youth roared and slashed towards Usopp. Advertisement. Usopp screamed in fright, and the whole person flew back to hide behind Zoro. It's none of my business. I didn't make it. At this moment, the young man was taken aback when he saw Zoro. Brother Zoro. Yo, Isn't this Johnny? Where's Joseph? Zoro looked at Johnny strangely and asked. Big brother, why are you on this kind of pirate ship? Johnny looked at Zoro in surprise. Pirate ship? Don't make a fuss, we are a warship. Well, requisitioned. Luffy coughed twice. Is this a warship? Johnny looked at the Mary suspiciously. The expression on his face is that I don't read much, don't lie to me, it's not like he hasn't seen a warship as a bounty hunter. I just said that I want to paint a marine warship logo on the ship. Usopp complained to several people, you don't believe my nearly 50 years of painting experience. Don't make trouble, you will be treated as a fake marine and attacked by warships. Johnny first looked at Zoro excitedly, then pointed to the rock with tears streaming down his face. Brother, Joseph, Joseph. Everyone turned their heads and saw Joseph in green skin lying behind the reef with his eyes rolled. Zoro looked at Joseph silently, patted Johnny on the shoulder comfortingly, and was about to say goodbye to him. As a result, Johnny answered. Joseph, he is sick. Zoro, Usopp, if you're not dead, cry yourself. P.S. Does anyone like this style? Asking for flowers, I feel like I need to change the title of the book, no one reads it. Advertisement Chapter 24 Colonel Lousy Naval Headquarters. Advertisement. They took Joseph aboard. Nami could tell at a glance that this guy had scurvy caused by a long-term lack of vitamin C. Go to the cabin and prepare some limes to feed him into his mouth. He will be fine in 2 days. Nami said to Zoro and the others. Zoro. Really or not? Johnny. Big sister, is what you said true? Isn't this guy dying? Nami. It's just normal scurvy. Really, really, big sister head. Johnny excitedly asked Nami loudly, is it really like what the big sister said? Nami slapped Johnny away who was spitting excitedly. Usopp came out of the cabin carrying a large box of lemons, and squeezed lemon juice into Joseph's mouth with his hands. Usopp. Are these enough? Zoro. Not yet, he's not awake yet. Usopp. So let's try putting lemons in his mouth. Zoro. It can be. Nami. Enough is enough. Do you want to choke him to death? With a growl, Nami stopped Usopp and Zoro who had already stuffed a dozen lemons into Joseph's mouth. Huh, enough, Usopp, but you are so powerful, I already knew that you are a woman with 2 skills. Yeah, yes, it's really powerful, Zoro on the side also nodded. Nami looked at the 2-2-BS with a headache. Give me some common sense of navigation. Are you idiots? Otherwise, you will die sooner or later. As soon as the voice fell. Advertisement. There was a puff from below. Joseph struggled to spit out all the lemon in his mouth, and his face was twisted to ultimate by the acid. Then he stood up like a zombie. Johnny. Companion. Joseph. Companion. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. The two of them walked around the deck excitedly, arm in arm. Full nutrition. Resurrected. Everyone. Nami yelled furiously. Are you idiots? How could you recover so quickly? Plop. Joseph fell to the ground in an instant and passed out again. Everyone. Damn retarded. The crowd gathered together Zoro's younger brother duo temporarily, and continued to set off towards the restaurant on the sea. I heard that Baratie restaurant is very close to the Grand Line. There are rumors about the eagle-eyed man that Big Brother has been looking for. In the evening, everyone sat around the dining table, gnawing dryly on long bread. When Zoro heard what Johnny said, his eyes widened, his forehead was sweating, and an excited smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Hey, Zoro, don't get so excited, as a superb swordsman, learn to be like a shisui. Luffy held the steel sword broken by Garp in front of him with a peaceful face, and looked at the system panel in his mind. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Current loading template. Shi Leng Li Jing. Equipment. Sword. Advertisement. Talent ability. 100% being caught empty-handed. Skills. 100% being empty-handed to the sword, single body, 100% to being empty-handed to the sword group, 100% to being empty-handed to the sword, specified, peerless swordsmanship. Character reset countdown. 1 day, 15 hours and 23 minutes. Character reduction rate. 57%. There is still more than a day, and the reduction rate has reached 57%. Luffy, if you meet Hawkeye, do you want to challenge him? At this time, Zoro's eyes are full of challenging Hawkeye's dream of becoming the world's #1 swordsman. Luffy shook his head inscrutably, I can't. Zoro looked at Luffy with contempt. As a swordsman, you must go forward bravely, how can you just say that you are not good enough before you can compare? Who would have thought that Luffy would look at Zoro with contempt? I mean, once I make a move, even if I am as strong as Hawkeye, I will inevitably throw myself and kneel in front of me. Hey, invincible, how lonely. Zoro, I believe you ghost. Since Johnny and Joseph had been to Baratie, the melee soon came to the waters where Baratie sailed. A huge fish head restaurant anchored firmly in the sea. Amazing. What a big ship. Usopp was drooling looking at Baratie, and even Nami looked excitedly at this sea restaurant she had only heard of. In order to save money, she was never willing to come to this kind of place to spend. At this time, a huge warship rang the bell and passed by. A man in a suit and leather shoes came out from the deck. Isn't there a pirate flag? The man put a fisted hand on the railing. I am Naval Headquarters Lieutenant Iron Fist Hope. Hey, who is the captain? Tell me your name. At this time, Luffy took out his justice cloak from the cabin and put it on behind him. Colonel Lousy Naval Headquarters, Monkey D. Luffy, which onion are you? Advertisement Chapter 25 Give me some white. Advertisement. Hopeful, who was opposite, staggered. The wine glass in his hand suddenly covered his whole body. He looked carefully at Luffy and found that it was the new Marine Colonel Monkey D. Luffy published in the newspaper some time ago. At that time, I was still discussing that I don't know which Vice Admiral's family member went through the back door to get paid for nothing. Who would have thought that he would meet him here? Hobody's originally arrogant smile instantly turned into a flattering sneer. It turned out to be Colonel Luffy. I didn't expect to be honored to meet you here. Sabaody rubbed his palms like a traitor, bowed his head and greeted Luffy. Usopp on the side looked enviously at the marine skin behind Luffy. Amazing. This thing is so easy to use, if I have one, it would be so handsome. Nami on the side nodded. Luffy's grandfather is the legendary Marine Vice Admiral Garp, we can definitely wear this military uniform. At this time, Hope put on and walked out a blonde beauty in a red dress. What's wrong? Has something happened? Luffy's eyes lit up on the melee, and he jumped directly to Sabaody's warship. Marine on the side looked at Luffy, who was wearing the cloak of justice and the colonel's epaulettes, and immediately raised his hand to salute. Hello Colonel. Luffy waved his hand casually. Comrades have worked hard. The blonde beauty looked at Luffy in surprise and asked Hope, this is. Luffy directly gave a hand kiss from a Western aristocrat in an elegant manner. My lord, Colonel Luffy of Naval Headquarters, the grandson of Marine hero Garp, would you be interested in having a romantic encounter with me? Sabaody on the side had a livid face at first and felt that the top of his head was green, but when he heard Luffy's introduction, his face instantly showed ecstasy. This guy turned out to be Garp's grandson. Who is Garp? That's the legendary Marine. Advertisement. Although he is an ordinary Vice Admiral in name, everyone in this department knows that even 3 admirals are not necessarily comparable to Garp in terms of status. The blonde beauty looked at Sabaody with a puzzled expression. Sabaody quickly winked at the beautiful woman. Seeing Hope's cowardice, the blonde beauty was filled with disgust, and immediately took Luffy's arm and walked towards the boat to Baratie. Sabaody, who was behind him, followed up like a follower. The stunned Usopp and others on the melee were left behind. My grass. Thousands of words merged into a classic word and shouted from Usopp's mouth. Why are you standing still? Hurry up and follow Sengfan. Luffy suddenly turned around and shouted at Nami and the others. Nami's eyes lit up when he heard that he could eat for free. Wait for me. Sabaody behind him looked at Luffy's coquettish operation with a confused face. Is the current Marine second generation's way so wild? Soon everyone came to the restaurant. The coat of Colonel Luffy's rank caused a lot of exclamation from the diners. What a young colonel. The servant behind him seems to be the Sabaody lieutenant. Even the younger brother is Naval Headquarters lieutenant, this must be the colonel of Marine Headquarters. How handsome. That is to say, the movements are so elegant, there are even 2 female companions. Luffy led the blonde beauty and Nami to find a round table and sat down. Zoro and Usopp also wanted to sit down but were ruthlessly driven away by Luffy. While going, didn't you see that I was in a 2-person, 3-person world? Advertisement. Zoro, the straight man of steel, looked impatient. Huh. Why, what 3-person world? Usopp on the side pulled Zoro to another table enviously. You single dog doesn't understand, if it weren't for the fact that I only have Kaya in my heart, oh, my Kaya. Zoro looked at Usopp with a question mark all over his head, not understanding what he meant at all. Soon the red-footed Zap walked up to Luffy with a bottle of red wine and poured it for the 3 of them. Although the protagonist has changed, it is obvious that Luffy's status is much higher than that of Sabaody. You are awesome, you see everyone looks at you with envy. The blonde beauty covers her mouth and chuckles. Luffy picked up the glass and shook it twice. It's all attracted by you 2 beautiful ladies. The blonde woman covers her mouth and chuckles. Nami looked at Luffy with a look of disdain. Come on, I don't know you yet. Luffy, depend on. Can you not destroy such a romantic atmosphere I created? Luffy took a sip of the red wine, and suddenly a sour and slightly sweet taste spread through his mouth. FK, what's the matter? Boss, give me some white. Beauty, Zapu, white, what do you mean? Zap looked at Luffy in bewilderment. Luffy pointed to the red wine and said, it's the one with a higher alcohol content. With this low alcohol wine, how many bottles do you have to drink to get the 2 of you drunk? Boom. Nami punched Luffy's head dangling. Hey, what are you thinking about? And at this moment, a Marine with injuries all over his body came in from the door. Lieutenant is bad. We let the pirate Krieg's men escape. P.S. Has anyone seen it? I changed the name to, Wong Luffy, form a Straw Hat Marine team at the beginning of the game, so that more people can watch it. Please give me some advice, big brother. Advertisement Chapter 26 Eliminate Evil. Do it all. Open black lens bracket. Thank you Falcon Boss for your reward. Close black lens bracket. Advertisement. At this time, a Marine ran in from the door in a panic. Everyone looked in the direction of the soldiers. What did you say? Sabaody's expression changed upon hearing this. In order to track down Krieg and his gang, we sent 7 people to catch them. The soldier lowered his head, not daring to look at Sabaody. Impossible. When he was caught 3 days ago, he was already starving to death. Didn't he eat anything after that? Baratie said in disbelief. The hotel guests panicked when they heard Krieg's name. The Krieg gang. Isn't that the strongest pirate group in East Blue? The frightening pirate group with dozens of large ships in the legend. All of a sudden, there was a commotion in Baratie. The soldier bowed to Sabaody in shame. I really hug. And at this moment, suddenly, a firecracker stretched out from the side of the soldier. Luffy narrowed his eyes while holding the wine glass. Bang! There was a shot. The bullet hit the wooden door in the air. Marine, who was standing, was pulled to his side by Luffy's extended arm. Ah! The guests suddenly screamed in panic. Everyone hid in a corner and looked at the door in a swarm. Jin slowly walked into the hall with a firecracker in his hand and a ferocious expression on his face. The bloodline on his head and his weak face showed that he was not in a healthy state at this time. Advertisement. Many. Thank you, sir. The soldier who was pulled aside looked at him in shock and Luffy hurriedly thanked him. Luffy waved his hand and picked up the red wine to signal the soldier to go aside to heal his wounds. Jin walked to an empty dining table step by step, and slammed his foot on the table. Anything is fine, hurry up and serve, this is a restaurant, right? Then he yelled viciously in the restaurant. Disgust flashed in Nami's eyes. If it wasn't for Luffy's attack just now, the soldier would have died by now. At this time, Sabaody whispered to Luffy with trepidation, Mr. Luffy, look. Sabaody had just heard that the Krieg pirates suffered serious losses, and wanted to see if he could set up an ambush to gain military merit. Anyone who was once a seriously injured subordinate can escape from his own cage. He was so timid at this time that he was so frightened by Jin's power that he didn't even dare to speak. I'm repeating, listen to me, and serve quickly. Jin said with a grim face. Luffy stood up slowly holding the wine glass at this time. Hello, Master Luffy. Sabaody looked at Luffy who was slowly walking towards Jin in astonishment. No way, Lord Luffy, he will be killed. From Sabaody's point of view, Luffy is nothing more than the thigh of a Colonel Marine who got through the back door through his connections. However, Luffy ignored Sabaody at all, and walked straight to Jin. Hey, don't you take Marine too seriously. Luffy said to Jin condescendingly while holding a wine glass. Marine. Jin sneered and pointed the short gun at Luffy. I think you want to eat a gun. No, I'm going to be killed. Sabaody looked in Akin's direction in horror. Advertisement. Luffy poured the red wine in his hand directly on Jin's head with a blank expression. So, I hate you pirates. Jin was furious instantly. You are courting death. Bang. There was a shot. The bullet went straight into Luffy's chest. Everyone in the hall screamed. However, the expected blood did not flow out, and the bullet pulled a long trajectory on Luffy's chest, and then bounced straight back to Jin's hand. Nani, what's going on? Jin screamed, covering his injured arm with an expression of disbelief. Red-footed Zap squinted his eyes and looked at Luffy. Demon fruit power. Idiot. A pirate dares to show up in front of Lousy. Do you think you are the four emperors? Luffy sneered, kicked Jin's chest directly, and the tables and chairs in the restaurant suddenly turned upside down. And Jin clutched his chest in pain and screamed again and again. Luffy stepped forward and kicked Jin in front of Hope again. Go get him something to eat, and let him go. Sabaody nodded subconsciously. Oh, I'll arrest him now. No, Lord Luffy, what did you say? Single quote. Luffy sneered and said to Hopebody word by word. Get him something to eat, and then put it back. But Baratie was so confused that he didn't know Luffy's purpose for doing this. Even Nami was at a loss as to what Luffy was up to. Luffy stepped forward and patted Jin's face. Aren't you dissatisfied? Do you want to take revenge? Go and call me your boss, Krieg, there should be quite a few of you left. Are you starving to death? Bring your boss and I'll treat you to dinner. After speaking, Luffy waved his hand at Hope, asking him to throw Jin out. It affects my appetite. Nami frowned and asked Luffy, what's your plan? Why do you want to help the pirates? Luffy shook his head with a smile. Help the pirates. It doesn't exist. Eliminate evil. Do everything. Advertisement Chapter 27 Want to find all blue. Advertisement. After Luffy defeated the Krieg pirates in the original book, Akin left Baratie with Krieg and his party. And also said to set sail again to meet Luffy on the Grand Line. And with Krieg's despicable and shit-eating personality, I don't know how many civilian Marines will die in his hands. So this time Luffy had no intention of letting go of the Krieg pirates or leaving Baratie at all. At this time, Sanji came out of the kitchen with a plate of egg-fried rice. Having experienced the pain of extreme hunger, he would not allow anyone to feel hungry in front of him. You must know that Zapu ate his own leg because he gave up the food to Sanji. The so-called being cut off by the anchor in the anime is purely for passing the trial, and the reality is often much crueler. So even if the person in front of him is an extremely fierce and cruel pirate, he is willing to fill his stomach first before fighting him. Coupled with the habit of not shooting women, in Luffy's opinion, this guy is purely a typical 2B youth who is poisoned by the spirit of chivalry. So 2B youths are much happier, which is why Luffy agreed with Nami to come to Baratie restaurant. After all, the guy in front of him is the top chef among the pirates. Who doesn't want to have all kinds of food served during the adventure? Although Luffy wanted to tie Jessica from the G8 fortress, he estimated that Jonathan Vice Admiral would not allow him to poach his wife. Sanji put seafood fried rice in front of Jin who was lying on the ground. Jin turned his head dismissively. Tisk tisk, you have a lot of backbone. Luffy sighed. I don't eat the food donated by others, but eat the food I snatched. Is this the most delicious food obtained through my own efforts? Nami on the side rolled his eyes in contempt. So this is a pirate. Suddenly, Sanji only saw Nami's eyes lit up. He casually took out a rose from the table beside him and knelt down in front of Nami on one knee. Ocean, thank you for giving me today's meeting. Advertisement. Nami. Huh, love, just laugh at me who can't bear this pain. As long as I can be with you, whether it's becoming a pirate or sinking into hell, I've made up my mind now. Sanji opened his hands, and his eyes had become red hearts at this time. In Luffy's previous life, this was definitely a standard dog licking. It's a pity that there is such a huge obstacle between us. Boom. With a muffled sound, the wooden stick on Garp's foot hit Sanji's head directly. I'm the obstacle, you idiot said, right? Excuse me, Colonel, I'll get him out right away. Luffy smiled and waved his hands. Don't, I happen to be short of a cook on board, and I'll recruit you, the sous chef. Zapu's face changed suddenly, and the thing he didn't want to see happened. Molested as Colonel Marine's female companion, isn't it death? Colonel, you are joking, Sanji is not good at learning, and now he cannot be the chef of the warship independently. Who knows if this person in front of him will avenge his personal revenge during the voyage. As a pirate, Zapu naturally doesn't have much affection for Marine. That's not what you say, Luffy said to Zapu with a smile. Zapu's expression changed, and he had already begun to secretly gather strength, ready to strike. Unexpectedly, Luffy smiled and said to Sanji, shouldn't we ask the person concerned for their opinion? Sanji looked at Luffy with a look of disgust. I don't want to be your cook, I have a reason to be a cook in this restaurant. Don't you want to find all blue? Advertisement. Luffy smiled at Sanji like a fox. All blue. Sanji raised his voice sharply. Zap frowned at Luffy, wondering why he was bringing this up. Do you know where Allblue is? Sanji asked hurriedly. Of course. Luffy was completely bragging and didn't draw a draft. The so-called Allblue, the place where the world meets, has no other place except Luffroot where one place is located. It's at the end of the Grand Line, the real end of the land. Really? Sanji's eyes sparkled. Is there the legendary All Blue there? Zoro frowned and asked Luffy in a low voice, is what you said true? Luffy whispered back. I don't know the FK, I'm fooling him. Zoro looked at Sanji sympathetically. Zapu looked at Luffy dubiously and asked, how do you know this? I haven't heard about Allblue. You must know that Zapu's original goal of going to sea was All Blue. To this end, he also established the chef pirates. It's a pity that the long fights and battles in the Grand Line made him gradually forget his previous dreams. But his insight is not comparable to that of the frogs in the bottom of the well in East Blue. Of course, my grandpa is Garp. Luffy said, thumbs up to Zap. Zapu's expression changed instantly when he heard the words. Marine hero Garp. Advertisement Chapter 28. Life will not be boring if there are more funny. Advertisement. Among the East Blue, Garp is a legend. So for the pirates on the Grand Line, the existence of Garp is a real fear. As Marine Vice Admiral Garp, who kills rocks and chases One Piece everywhere. Except for a very few top iron pirates on the Grand Line, they basically walk around when they meet each other. Moreover, Garp's figure is almost all over the entire Grand Line, even in the second half of the Four Emperors territory, Garp can enter and exit at will. Not even the Four Emperors were willing to confront Garp head-on. Without him, it is really unbeatable. If Marine Admiral strays into Four Emperors territory, he can be killed there. But even if Garp went deep into the territory of the Four Emperors, they couldn't do anything about him. Luckily Garp doesn't want to start a world war. Therefore, he generally wouldn't stroll around the Four Emperors territory easily. But for Allblue, if Garp gave the news, it might really be as Luffy said. After all, apart from Roger, the one who conquered the Grand Line, only Garp has done it. Zapu looked at Luffy with a pensive face, and then he kicked Sanji. Go away, boy, go to sea, this is a good opportunity, you leave with them, this store doesn't need you anymore, gone. Smelly old man. Sanji was taken aback for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, I'm the sous chef here, what do you mean you don't need me? Leaning on a table, Zap folded his arms and said. Just like the words, you often have conflicts with customers, and you run to flatter women as soon as you see them, and you can't cook any delicious dishes. It's a burden for this store, and that's what I mean. What did you say? Sanji glared at Zapu angrily, and the chefs on the side looked at Sanji and laughed. Advertisement. Anyway, the chefs don't like you, so leave as soon as possible and get out of this shop. Zap waved his hand impatiently. Nami on the side muttered softly, it's too much to say. Luffy chuckled. Being familiar with the plot, I naturally knew that Zapu didn't want Sanji to hide in the small corner of East Blue because of his life-saving grace. What he hopes is for Sanji to fulfill his original dream and find the legendary All Blue. But Sanji felt guilty for Zapu because he lost a leg, and vowed to stay in Baratie to protect the restaurant that Zapu bought with his life. Damn it, I won't refute you, don't push yourself too hard, old man. Aside from other things, I will never allow you to belittle my cuisine. No matter what you say, I will be a chef here. You are not allowed to have any opinions. Zapu frowned, and kicked Sanji far away again. You silly boy. Luffy glanced at Ajin, who was about to run away after dinner at some point, thinking that this guy was still somewhat useful. Zap left the hall angrily. Peace was restored among Baratie again. Hobody suddenly found that there was only an empty plate left where Ajin was originally. He yelled at Luffy in shock. No, Colonel. Jin ran away. The corner of Luffy's mouth twitched, he wondered how Hawkeye got the position of Naval Headquarters Lieutenant. Now it seems that this guy must have come in through the back door just like himself. This is also the reason why this unlucky boy was sent to a remote area after his reputation became bad. If it really depends on strength to become a lieutenant, Marine will definitely not waste such a combat power. Luffy waved his hand. I was going to let him go. Single quote. Seeing Zapu leave, Sanji's mood turned from cloudy to sunny like a Sichuan opera. He took out 2 cups of fruit salad from nowhere and put them next to Nami and the blonde girl beside him. Advertisement. I was really rude just now. Wei apologizes. I invite you to eat assorted fruits, your royal highnesses. Saying that, Sanji also poured a glass of juice for the 2 of them. Thank you so much, you are such a nice person. Nami saw that there was something free to eat, and immediately smiled and sent a good person card to Sanji. Sanji suddenly felt ecstatic. Where? Usopp on the side roared frantically. Don't you need to apologize to us? Hey, be careful and I'll sue you. You perverted cook. Sanji immediately gave Usopp a look of disgust. Didn't I serve you rough tea? Be grateful, long nose. Want to fight? B**************** D. I'm not being polite, Usopp said to Sanji viciously, and then he turned his head and shouted at Zoro. Kill him, Zoro. Zoro. UFK yourself, B*********** D. Luffy burst out laughing. Sure enough, life would not be so boring if there were more funny people on board. There are many traversers who want to come to Pirate World to gain invincibility and then push invincibility to dominate the world. But Luffy feels that a big reason why he liked watching One Piece in his previous life was because of the funny daily life and touching experiences of the Straw Hat Pirates. The only thing that makes Luffy feel awkward is that in the original book, Luffy is a fool, clamoring to be a pirate all day long, and as a result, the whole world is thrown into chaos. In Wong Luffy's view, the ones who really belong to the righteous in the pirate world may instead be the revolutionary army dedicated to liberating the world. They may be the real hope of setting the world free. And Luffy is at most the fuse that caused the world to change and overthrow the celestial dragons. And before the world is liberated, only Marine is the real justice and the greatest power above the sea, which is why Luffy chose to become a Marine. Anyway, with Garp's support, as long as he has the status of Marine, he can almost do whatever he wants on a legal level. Advertisement Chapter 29 Red Hair, You Bet on Loneliness. Advertisement. In the original book, Luffy was forced to work in the sea restaurant Baratie because he accidentally injured Zapu by knocking the shells fired by Sabaody. In this life, Luffy is holding a beautiful woman in his arms, with delicacies on the table, flirting leisurely with the beautiful woman. Hey, Luffy, are you sure the Krieg pirates will really come to this restaurant to rob? Usopp looked at the heavy fog rising outside the ship and asked in boredom, It's been a day, if you really go to inform me, shouldn't you be here? Didn't I already send Sabaody to investigate? As a righteous Marine, we must not sit back and watch the evil pirates harm East Blue. Luffy said to Usopp sternly, and then turned to the blonde beauty and said softly, Do you think so? Colonel Luffy is so handsome. The blonde beauty clapped her hands, then took Luffy and fed him a glass of wine. Usopp. You're definitely not wanting to leave because you're picking up girls. How can you take me so lightly? I'm Colonel Naval Headquarters. Then you take the hand off the other person's body before you talk. I can't make it up. Usopp. Boil. Luffy silently looked at the attribute panel in his mind and frowned. At this time, Lee Jing's template has entered the countdown stage. Luffy silently pulled out the broken sword that was snapped off by Garp. Unfathomable stood up and said to Zoro who was drinking. I think I am invincible in the world of swordsmanship. Today I will let you experience the ultimate mystery of swordsmanship. Zoro put down the wine glass in his hand with a confused face. Huh. I saw Luffy standing indifferently, and everyone in the restaurant looked at Luffy. Even Zap and the chefs of the restaurant ran out to watch the excitement. I saw Luffy slowly slashing down the broken sword, and forced a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead with internal force. Come. Advertisement. Luffy yelled, and suddenly a figure appeared and clamped Luffy's broken sword with both hands. Nani. Zoro looked at the scene in front of him in horror and felt incredible. Zapu slapped himself in a daze, as if to make sure that he was not dreaming. Luffy gasped. Boy, did it really work. I saw short black hair, eagle-like sharp yellow eyes, a short beard, a black top hat with white fluff on his head, and a wine-red patterned shirt. Black trench coat, white trousers, and black ankle boots. With a cross knife hanging on his chest, and the man carrying the world's strongest black knife, Yi, on his back, he knelt on one knee and clamped Luffy's broken sword. Hawkeye. Zoro felt a terrifying aura emanating from the man. Zap looked at Hawkeye in complete disbelief, wondering how he had ended up on his ship. Only the corner of Luffy's mouth twitched. Did it really work? 100% being caught empty-handed designated. Within a certain range, you can designate someone to ignore the cause and effect and directly appear under the sword to catch your own slash. Originally, although Luffy knew that Hawkeye might have come to East Blue, he didn't know the scope of this move at all. Thinking that the time is coming anyway, there is no loss if you try a few times blindly, so you just think about Hawkeye, and slashed down out of thin air. Unexpectedly, Hawkeye was actually summoned directly. This is so frightening. As expected, it was a karma-level move that was forcibly rescued from the Black Hole Vice Admiral. At this time, Hawkeye was looking around blankly. I asked myself 3 questions in a row. Who I am? Where am I? What am I doing? It wasn't until he saw the straw hat behind Luffy that he suddenly remembered his purpose for coming to East Blue this time. Advertisement. He wanted to see what the future One Piece would look like if Shanks traded his arm in East Blue. However, he has no idea how he got here. However, his intuition as a swordsman made him instantly feel the power of Luffy as the #1 swordsman in the Shang dynasty. Who are you? Hawkeye asked without paying attention to his half-kneeling posture. Luffy nodded with a smile. My name is Luffy, Colonel Naval Headquarters. Hawkeye was stunned when he heard the words. My grass. Redhead, you bet your loneliness with your arm, he never became a pirate at all. It can be drawn from the fact that the red hare went to snatch the rubber fruit of celestial dragons, and the red hare's reaction after Luffy ate the rubber fruit. The earliest redheads didn't intend to give rubber fruit to Luffy. And the biggest possibility of frequenting the windmill array is. Redhead originally planned to give this fruit, which even the world government changed its name out of fear, to the son of Roger, the former captain of One Piece. Portgas d Ace. It's a pity that Garp didn't know where Ace was hidden at that time, and Hongfa only knew that the captain had entrusted Ace to Garp, so Hongfa could only come to Windmill Town to inquire about Ace. Who would have thought that the rubber fruit originally prepared for Ace would be cut off by Luffy halfway? And the rarity of this kind of fruit is impossible for Red Hair and others to kill Luffy and look for it again, not to mention that Luffy is the grandson of Garp, the son of the dragon. Even if the 4 emperors fight against these 2 people at the same time, it is just looking for death. So the redhead simply used the bandits and planted a seed in Luffy's heart to become the One Piece at the cost of an arm. That's why when the redhead said he accidentally let the bandit go, Beckman cursed helplessly. You be **************. However, what made Hawkeye confused at this time was that the red-haired Luffy seemed to have grown crookedly. Far from being a pirate, he became a marine, a colonel. Hawkeye didn't know what expression to use to face Luffy at this moment. I had no choice but to continue pretending that I didn't know Luffy at all, and after Luffy drew his sword, he got up calmly and asked. Where am I? P.S. Anyone watch it? Advertisement Chapter 30 I, 3 swords, I only have 3 swords. Advertisement. Could it be, are you, the eagle-eyed man? Zoro stared at Hawkeye tremblingly and asked. He's called Dracula Mahawk. Luffy explained from the side, what am I talking about? Following me will definitely make you meet the world's #1 swordsman. Although Zoro could feel the overwhelming terrifying aura of Hawkeye. But facing Hawkeye kneeling in front of Luffy always felt a little distorted. What about the world's #1 swordsman? Why did he kneel down in front of Colonel Luffy, the Marine? Is your conqueror's sword intent so terrifying? Zoro couldn't help but ask Luffy again. Luffy smiled and didn't speak. Zapu didn't dare to neglect Hawkeye and said. The man who stood on the top of the world's arrows. Zapu looked at Hawkeye and said solemnly, this is Baratie, East Blue Sea Restaurant. Hawkeye's heart was full of MMP at this moment. Sitting in a boat, chopping Krieg, wandering in East Blue, looking for Luffy, only to run here in the next second. What hurt the eagle eye was that Luffy, who made the red hair lose an arm, did not become a pirate according to the red hair's idea. Moreover, Hawkeye can still feel the powerful swordsmanship on Luffy. Conqueror's sword intent. What is that? As the #1 swordsman in the world, Hawkeye was dumbfounded by Zoro's moves. At this time, Zoro finally couldn't bear it anymore, and he clenched the Hidao word in his hand and said loudly to Hawkeye, I went to see you. Advertisement. Hawkeye asked without interest, what is the target? Zoro tied the turban on his arm to his head and said confidently, the strongest. Sensing Zoro's determination, Hawkeye also showed an interested smile. Huh, you're so stupid. Zoro directly pulled out Hidao's text and said excitedly, let's compete. Competition. Hawkeye glanced at Zoro contemptuously, and then looked at Luffy, sadly weak, if you talk about him, you may be able to compete with me. If you are really a first-class swordsman, even this gap can't you see it? Dare to face me with a sword and say that you have the courage, or is it because of ignorance? Zoro glanced at Luffy. Kenshin was not affected by Hawkeye's words at all. He grinned and said, because of my ambition and the agreement with my best friend, I am not allowed to back down in front of you. Of course I can see the gap, but I have a reason to win. As he spoke, Zoro put the sword in his mouth and faced Hawkeye. Usopp swallowed deeply and whispered to Luffy, hey, Luffy, are you sure you don't want to stop it? Luffy suddenly realized, and said to Zoro and Hawkeye, then what, I want to beat you out to fight, and I won't pay you if you damage the restaurant. Usopp. At this moment, Zapu also remembered that the 2 of them were in his restaurant in Baratie. He hurriedly stepped forward and said, there is an elevator platform outside the restaurant that can be used for combat. If you want to fight, I can raise the platform, and you can fight outside. Luffy waved his hand and said, no need, the tournament stage is here. Zap looked at Luffy in surprise, not knowing what he meant. However, when everyone came to the deck outside the ship, they found a giant pirate ship 10 times larger than Baratie slowly approaching. Krieg pirates. Oh my god, that terrifying pirate admiral is really here. The guests suddenly let out a cry of panic. Immediately everyone was frightened and ran to the lifeboat behind the ship in a hurry. Advertisement. This stage is enough for you to play. Luffy pointed at the pirates and laughed. Under the surprised eyes of everyone, Luffy pulled out the broken sword. The originally kind expression instantly became sharp. I will add a little more difficulty to you. After speaking, Luffy swung the broken sword abruptly. A sword chi formed a sword net that directly enveloped the entire giant pirate ship. Hawkeye's pupils shrank. Sure enough, this guy's swordsmanship was comparable to his own. In Zoro's shocked eyes, the Krieg pirate's ship was instantly dismembered like a toy. Countless pirates fell into the water like dumplings. Krieg, who was wearing armor, and Ajin, who was beside him, looked confused, completely unaware of what happened. Seeing Lai Shinchi at this time, Hawkeye directly pulled out the black sword behind his back and pointed at Luffy. I want to compete with you. Luffy waved his hands at Hawkeye with an inscrutable expression on his face. You can't even bear my sword intent. Hawkeye was speechless after hearing this. He had never seen such a brazen person. Okay, let's talk after we call. Hawkeye jumped straight onto a broken deck of the Krieg pirate ship with a black sword in hand, pointing at Luffy. Luffy stretched out 3 fingers calmly, and said forcefully to Hawkeye, 3 swords, I only make 3 swords, if you can catch it, you will win. Hawkeye on the opposite side smiled angrily, even the peak redhead would not dare to underestimate him in terms of kendo. Come on, Hawkeye yelled. Luffy stood there calmly and waved his hand. Hawkeye, advertisement.